fact and finding. Okay, so of course, when the media came, they started flying their helicopters and started shooting as much footage as they could. And there's debates as to whether the gun that was pulled out of the back of the vehicle was an AR. So the police pulled an extra gun out of the trunk of the vehicle, and the media caught on camera what it was. And I thought it was an AR, but which would have been the Bushmaster, which then it would have been, okay, all the shots were done by a Glock. All right, so the gun was pulled out of the back of the vehicle, and Dan corrected me. It wasn't an AR Bushmaster. It was the shotgun. And most people say, oh, well, it doesn't look like the traditional shotgun. It's because it's not your traditional shotgun. It's the, what brand was it, Dan?
It's a Saiga 12.
Yeah, and if you look that up, that looks exactly like what was pulled out. It looks like an AR style shotgun. So that answers my question for the strange facts and findings. Something else that I thought was weird. They talked about how Adam suffered from like Asperger's and sensory disorder and severe anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder, and how he like wanted to be a recluse and didn't want to leave his home unless he wanted to go to the mall to play DDR, Dance Dance Revolution, which kind of contradicts his diagnosis of sensory disorder and being reclusive. You know, because we do have a video which we'll have linked up of him recording himself at the mall playing Dance Dance Revolution, which, as you can see, bright lights, dancing, you're out in public. So it makes me kind of just wonder, you know. There was also something else that we came across that was really weird, that Adam Lanza's longtime psychiatrist, Paul Fox, after the shooting, he fled the country to New Zealand and then destroyed all of Adam's records, which by law is illegal. Fox did, however, advise law enforcement officials that he had retained Adam's patient billing records, which was the only thing that he had kept. He destroyed everything else. So he decided to return back to the U.S. and was practicing medicine in Maine. However, he lost his license when he was accused of, or when he had 3 sexual assault charges brought up against him. So I can't go visit him and ask him questions or interview him.
Do you know if those were with minors or adults?
I do not know. I'm sure quick DuckDuckGo. Sexual assault. Former Wakatako psychiatrist Paul Fox was a sexual predator. Wow. The shocking extent of sexual offending by an American psychiatrist who worked with the hospital has sparked fears for his New Zealand patients. The sexual abuse by Dr. Paul Fox of a patient in the United States immediately before he worked in Hamilton is outlined the first time by a powerful victim impact statement by a young woman he assaulted. Fox hid his offending from health authorities when he applied to work in New Zealand in March of 2012. Wait, when did the shooting occur?
2012?
December 14th?
Yeah, December 14th, 2012.
Well, it's saying he applied to work in New Zealand in March 2012.
I guess he applied, and I guess it took a while for it to...
Months before that, he gave up his American registration over misconduct charges relating to boundary violations.
Well, he could have left before the shooting and just hadn't seen Adam in that time.
Yeah, so the young woman was a teenager when Fox began sexually abusing her during treatment for depression and an eating disorder. Connecticut court said that she was abused for more than 2 years. Wow.
Thanks for looking that up.
Yeah, not a problem. So that's just a little strange fact and finding, which you could kind of tie theories to that. Maybe he was abusing Adam, maybe not. Don't know.
Yeah, I even have some things to bring up to that.
Yeah. Before we get to theories, we got, go ahead.
Well, there was one talked about, about that there was a guy who was arrested in the woods?
Yes.
So when all this was happening, we talked about there was helicopter footage trying to record everything. And there was a guy who ran into the woods, and he was arrested. Some people believe that 2 different people ran into the woods because when you watch the cops or SWAT and FBI, whatever, go back there, they split off in 2 different directions. And that made the people think that, 2 people took off in 2 different ways, and that's what they were doing. But there was for sure one guy arrested. He had on camo and was supposedly another police officer that was part of the SWAT for another department. But why was he there? And it's in the FBI documents. And there's actually a video of this guy saying, I saw the guy who was arrested. He came out in handcuffs and specifically said that he had nothing to do with it. And then he's sitting in the front of the cop car right now. And the news camera didn't even turn to look at this cop car to see who it was on the inside.
Weird. Well, that kind of wraps up the strange facts and findings. So now let's just roll into theories. Let's hypothesize and talk about what other people have said about this Sandy Hook shooting and, just discuss some stuff.
We are definitely not bound to any of these as specific as these are not definites to us. We just saw them and thought they'd be interesting to bring up.
Yes.
So, I mean, the multiple shooter one there's a lot of documentaries talking about there being more than one shooter involved and more than one person on the outside. Like when I just mentioned the 2 different people possibly running in the woods. There were people in the gym who said they saw 2 shadows run past the auditorium. Dan, I know you watched that documentary with me. And they talked about 6 of them. Can you help me remember how they played in? I know there was suspicion of a father who he went there to do gingerbread houses. And the thing is that he wasn't supposed to be there till 2:00 in the afternoon, but he was at the school at 9:30 in the morning, and people couldn't understand why he was there that early to do this activity if it wasn't until 2:00 in the afternoon.
I mean, I've seen you just randomly show up and have lunch with your kid, which some schools have it start at like 10:30 maybe. But I feel like he was still a little early.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. I guess he just really wanted to see his daughter.
Try to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Another interesting thing that popped up was this guy, was it Christopher
Columbus?
A rodeo? Something like that. So when you listen to all the radio scans of that day, they read off the license plate to the black car, and then it's immediately followed by that guy's name. Well, I guess he was pulled over in a different town. And if anyone listens to police scanners, you're not tuned into just one place. You're going to hear EMS, fire department, they all come through. So basically, coincidentally, this guy was pulled over at the same time, and his name popped up right after they asked who owned the vehicle. But Dan, didn't he actually own the vehicle?
I think so.
And the only reason he didn't get arrested was because he was pulled over and he was using his mom's car somewhere else. Because his car was just in the parking lot. That's what it was. His car was just in the lot. They were running plates on him. And this guy's name came up and he's like, I wasn't there. There's no way that was me. Because I was pulled over in another town. And they ended up talking to the officer who pulled him over. And he said, yeah, so he really wasn't there. I pulled him over. That was just really strange. And the guy looks really creepy. Like, I would totally have suspected him.
Did he look like Adam? Big old, tall, bug-eyed looking like a frog?
No, he looked like he could have been involved as like a lackey for the mafia.
Oh, okay.
Oh. Uh-oh, mafia's involved.
Oh, shit.
Well, according to one of those documents, they could have been.
Yeah. This is full of interesting and crazy shit, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So the next theory is gun control, right? So when you talk to individuals about Sandy Hook, majority of them will say, well, I say majority, but the people who are kind of iffy about it will say it was done for gun control. Okay. Because wasn't there a vote for some type of gun bill the following day?
I think it was like a small gun treaty that Obama was signing or something like that.
I find it hard to believe that something like this would be done by the government to push tighter gun control laws. Because if they want something, wouldn't they just do it anyways? Why would they need some type of, let's say hypothetically they did manufacture this event, right? They did get this kid to do this. Why? For tighter gun control laws. Going through all this trouble. Why? It's my whole question. I feel more like the gun control aspect or the Obama is more of like a deterrent from could there be something else behind this? Maybe Adam Lanza was on some prescription medication, right? Maybe he was on. Oh, he was. What was he on? Antidepressants?
He was on psychotropics, just like fucking James Holmes.
That's what they don't talk about when you talk about mass shooters, is these medications, because Big Pharma is getting their pockets lined from the American people, who then they're taking, the lobbyists are getting their pockets lined by Big Pharma, who's then lining the congressmen, and then who's then, cashing out checks, and then the lobbyists are also making sure the media's lined as well, so the media doesn't push this type of narrative of like, oh, Big Pharma, we need to get our kids off of these drugs that they're on, these pharmaceutical medications that have side effects of them being shooters. That's kind of like wag the dog type of thing,
Oh, yeah.
What do y'all think about that? Y'all think that's possible, like probable?
Well, there were several mass shootings, like even that year. Like I just said, James Holmes with the movie theater shooting in Aurora, Colorado, was in June, if I'm not mistaken. And then you had, it's like, oh, maybe that didn't make that big of an impact on people wanting to take guns away as we thought. What's going to evoke the most emotion out of people?
Kids.
Children.
Yep.
Yeah. So we're going to hit them where it hurts, because in my opinion, and I'm not saying that if I'm going to give an opinion about it being for gun control, this is what I would think. That you give all these instances in a short time where there's been attacks that could have been supposedly stopped if we had guns taken away. You take away our guns and then you control the people. Because, like they say, what did Hitler do? He took away everybody's guns and their protection, and then he took over the countries. That would exactly happen to us. I always joke that if Texas gives up their guns, we're fucked. Because they're our protection. If anything were to happen, Texas would take over and literally save this country. It's the one thing I love about Texas. But I just feel that if you get rid of our guns, we can't defend ourselves from other people coming in with guns. And then that's when you have the New World Order.
Well, then it goes into the debate where people will say, well, do you really need an AR? Do you really need a 30-round magazine?
Do you really need a 60-pack of Oreos?
Do you really need this good microphone? It's like, do I really need it? I don't know. But do I want it? Yeah, sure. It's cool to have. It's cool to,
Yeah, Yeah,
It-
let's go to millionaires. Do you really need a $1 million painting? You know, how
Just-
about
Jeff Bezos really need $140 trillion or no, 140 billion trillion, Jesus Christ, $140 billion? No.
right?
But does he have it? Absolutely.
There's
Now come over here and let
You're-
me suck your dick for $1 million. Just kidding.
yeah. Hell, I get on my knees for $1 mil.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's things in
goodness.
life that we that we love,
Uh-oh.
and I know Dan has a look of he found some shit.
Uh-oh. Dan has found some shit.
So I found the fucking Connecticut State Police, I guess, files and shit.
Fucking hacking
It's-
their database, Dan. Damn it.
No, I fucking just kept searching Reddit, just kept scrolling down, and I finally hit fucking jackpot. Right now, I'm looking at the pictures they taken of Adam Lanza's room. Dude, he blacked out everything. He had fucking plastic garbage bags and everything blocking his windows off.
What are these videos?
Those are outside let's see.
I see interior 1 of 5.
So I think after everything happened, they recorded around, looking around at everything and all that.
Hmm.
Because I downloaded the first outdoor scene processing, and it's pretty much just them recording what it looked like after the incident.
Hmm.
It's all downloading right now.
Yeah, I just looked at, I downloaded the almost all the way down 22 assorted files and photographs. Dude, his room, I don't know. That's just, I mean, if that boy did not want light coming in, there was no light coming in that room. My God, he looks like, it's like me when I work night shift and I want to sleep during the day. But man,
Dude, all these photos are coming up as black.
for you,
Yeah.
I downloaded it and had to extract the zip file. Then I'm looking at all the files.
Are they coming up as PDF files?
Yes,
That's weird.
because each one is actually a set of photos.
Yeah, I'm looking at the 22 assorted files, and it's literally just all the photos are all black. Let me try to open with Google Chrome. Still all nothing but black.
So mine's,
They redacted all of them.
a lot of them are black. Like certain ones, I guess, are black still.
Suspect autopsy photos. Oh shit!
Oh,
All black.
all black.
Oh man. Okay, so I'm looking at the interior of the school, content redacted, and then it shows me a little bit content redacted. Shows me a little a bit. Content redacted.
Yeah, all of this, like the autopsy photos, all of that's redacted. Showing like blood on his gloves. No, okay, now the next like fucking 20 photos are all redacted. Shows
Oh
his
my
shirt
God.
after the shooting.
Looks like he was I know his mom was a gun fanatic. She collected guns. She liked guns and all that. I'm guessing Adam was the one that loved swords and knives and stuff, because Suspects House Evidence PDF by Mihan, there's a bunch of fucking like weird ass weapons. Like spears and shit. Samurai swords.
Dude, he wasn't that skinny. If he's wearing size 32 pants.
Dude, I wear like a size 32 pant.
Those photos of him were like younger photos, I think. They said that he gained a little bit more weight, but when they found him, they thought, like, I guess the way he was laying after he shot himself made him look like he was in a fetal position, and they just thought that he might have been one of the school children because of how skinny and small he was.
His clothes don't have that much blood on them for... You'd imagine there'd be a lot more splatter. I mean, hey, there's his boxers.
I could see where some glasses blown out, bullets hit the walls at the school.
I'm currently downloading the primary scene.
Yeah, there's blood on the floors.
Damn.
Magazines that he's dropped when he changed them that still had ammo in them.
I wonder
Oof.
why he did that. Just to like have the thrill of changing a mag, maybe?
Possibly. I want to say one of them, somebody said that one of his guns looked like it jammed or something.
Yeah, I remember reading that too.
It was when the kids were running out of the classroom. They were wondering why he didn't shoot all the children. One of those reports was that they theorized that his gun jammed for a little bit as he was shooting. And that's why some of the, I think, 9 or so children got away.
Is that why probably he was cursing too at times?
Yes.
I wonder how many of these are going to be redacted.
A lot of photos that are redacted.
Yeah, a lot of them are. So people did question why, when they collected his Bushmaster AR-15, why the muzzle of the gun had white residue on it. And I was a little confused by that as well until I did more research up on it. And they said it's what happens when you clean the gun and you leave too much oil on it and you start firing the gun to where the barrel heats up a lot and it starts to burn the residue that's left on it.
Okay.
Because people are just like, the gun looks so clean. Why would it have like that kind of mess on it? Pretty much he was shooting very, very rapidly.
Okay, so these primary scene photos are from his house. He took his computer apart.
Oh.
And took out his...
Hard drive?
And scratched it. It looks like.
They can still get into it. You should have took it apart and threw it in the microwave.
Yeah.
Not that I would know.
Yeah, supposedly what he did, he took the hard drive out, he pried it out with fucking screwdriver, they said, and then he took a 5-pound dumbbell and tried smashing it.
Yeah, that is next to it.
Which, it's just like, that's not, if you want to destroy it, that's not how you do it, buddy.
Nancy Lanza was a part of the NRA.
So I just found the picture of his hat after he shot himself, and that actually kind of makes,
See, I thought I saw that and there wasn't anything on it in the one I saw.
Oh, the one I see. You see the bullet hole, and then they zoom in for a better picture, and you see a little bit of splatter, some leftover hair. Ugh.
So in his drawer, it looks like he's got buckshots that he's peeled open, so the pellets are in his drawer. Because buckshots are the bigger rounds, right?
Buckshots, they're a little bit bigger. They're like little round pellets. Then, like the real big one, they're slugs.
Okay, then that's what it is. They look like little marbles.
If they look like little... Ooh. Oh, if they look like little marbles, yeah, buckshot. Probably.
He's got a home DDR mat.
Yeah, so, like Aaron was saying, if he had the sensory disorder, you look at his windows and stuff, he made sure no light got in. So if he was playing DDR in his room in the dark, that should have set him off. All those colors and stuff.
Dude, he had a ton of mags still in his room.
He had a knife with a fucking pentagram on the corners of it.
Did you see the picture of all the weapons he had yet?
Yeah, I'm looking at all the knives he had. He had a shitload of weird knives.
He had like some ancient Chinese spears.
Oh my god. Oh, that furniture is white.
Oh. He had Federal Premium Tactical Rifled Slug shotgun shells. For hunting, you don't use those because it shoots like a friggin' rifle and it goes pretty far. Buckshot pretty much is a spread. Those were for pretty much direct hits.
Okay.
I wonder why they would redact autopsy photos of him and stuff.
And ID photos. All those pictures are redacted.
So the door was taped at their house. Like, the back door, it's a glass door, and down the crack is clear tape, like packing tape.
Oh man, I want to whip his mom's ass. Those poor if he was wearing those shoes all the time, holy shit.
They were worn, huh?
The bottom of them, like literally they were falling apart. But I mean, then again, he's 20 years old. I know his mom, I think it was talking to, I think it was in an email. I got to see if I can find it, and I'll post it up if I can find it again. Was emailing his brother, talking about how she kept sending or kept trying to get him to go out and buy groceries himself instead of her having to go get everything for him because, you know, he didn't want to go outside or anything like that. That's why he had his own car and stuff. Like he was just starting to work on going back outside and getting stuff himself. So it was just. But man, his shoes are so worn. Oh my God. That boy played too much DDR.
I saw some pictures in the house. Oh, okay, now I'm coming to his room. I saw some pictures in the house of targets that were in a closet. Paper targets. Dude, you ain't playing. He really did have black bags up over his windows. Taped. Hole punched in the door.
Yeah, there's some of this stuff too.
Oh, I see his, like, school ID in his, like, bathroom underneath.
Someone did point out that in his bathroom underneath the sink, they're just like, why did he have diapers? Because they saw Huggies.
Yeah, I see those too. Oh, it's wipes.
They're wipes. Someone's just like, those are wipes. A lot of people have wipes.
Dude, you know, I get why they only use certain pictures of him. They did the same thing for Columbine. They choose to show the creepiest pictures of this kid.
Yep.
To continue to give the narrative of him being a psychopath, which I'm not saying he wasn't, but the picture on the ID is the one that we keep seeing. But you can't tell me his mom didn't have pictures of him other than these creepy wide-eyed photos.
So it looks like on one of the doorknobs, either he bashed it or he shot it to get into it. So bath exterior. So I guess one of the bathrooms, he shot the doorknob to pretty much break into it since I guess people were hiding in it.
Oh, in the school?
Yeah.
Redacted. I definitely know that when I'm in the house, the redacted ones are certainly the mother's scene, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Did he have a sister?
No. He just had Ryan, his older brother.
It was just him and his mom living in that house.
But on this nightstand, there's a picture of Adam and Ryan and a girl and a boy. And then there's a picture in the middle of all four of them.
Ooh.
Let me screen share with you guys real quick.
Maybe it's cousins or something.
Could be.
Oh.
That girl looks a lot like one of them. Or like maybe his brother? No, because...
like it seems like this is set up as a family thing.
Yeah.
Could it be possible that he had other siblings and the only one that his mother got was him and his brother and then his father got the other two?
Sex trafficking. That's why they don't talk about it.
But let's get into it. Let's hear that theory.
I am really curious who these kids are. I came across some interesting stuff with the help of a very dear friend of mine. So disappointed in them for redacting the pictures.
Yeah.
They have an Amish grace book. How Forgiveness Transcended Tragedy. That was open. Oh, dude. There's papers that are photocopied from a newspaper. It might have been a murder.
Is that from his room?
I don't know that it was from his room per se, but yeah, so these that you guys see, it talks about someone running in with a gun. So probably further research for his.
It's crazy that I found that site. We'll link that as well.
Yeah, dude, good find. That's, wow. A lot of pictures, even though the ones that you would be looking for were redacted.
Yeah.
Still a lot of gold in here. So we'll link this document that we have here. It talks about pedophilia and child trafficking and goes into different agencies and then ultimately comes to, like, they talk about the Catcher in the Rye for mind control in Connecticut. And then it comes to CIA partners with organized crime in New England and the lone gunboy theory. I'll just read this part here because this is, I mean, it all goes together, but this is a pretty long thing to all read. So this thing links even some religious groups as well, but what I'll start reading from is the agency spawned pedophiles, and this is straight from this document. The MK Ultra program that reached into campuses across Connecticut quickly created a human garbage heap of wrecked minds and twisted souls. The child abuse and drugs routinely administered to young trainees led to a permanent social fixture of sadism and sexual abuse throughout New England, from the gutter up to the governing class. In 2011, a Newtown resident named Edwin Wilson was arrested for having a months-long sexual relationship with a 4-year-old girl and producing child porn videos of their sexual encounters. The arrest was part of a wide crackdown order that the state attorney general, Richard Blumenthal, which boosted his successful campaign in the U.S. Senate race. Other cases include a 24-year-old Hispanic male in Hartford who shot videos of sex with a preteen girl, a DJ in Plainfield arraigned on similar charges, and an older theater and film teacher accused of using Taft School's equipment to make kiddie porn. The list goes on in sickening detail. So Fairfield University, where MK Ultra was implanted into New England, recently saw 2 staffers implemented in the rape of 23 Haitian boys during the earthquake relief effort. Okay, Hillary. Adam Lanza fits the profile of a pedophile ring recruit. Young enough to approach children at the local schools and in the churches, possessing the computer skills to produce child porn videos, and typically passive-aggressive in personality. The Lanzas attended the St. Rosa Alima Church, where 8 child parishioners were among the shooting victims. Santa Rosa is the same order that sponsors the Western State Hospital that employed Michael Jackson's physician, Dr. Conrad Murray. As in the case of Jackson's Neverland, after a child sex experiment blossoms, it must be shut down. So then it goes to say that Nancy Lanza kept an arsenal of firearms and ordered her son to be constantly under watch by older boys. She must have had a good reason for being armed to the teeth. Judging from her hoard of rifles and handguns, she was expecting an all-out assault from a coven of pedophiles, not an attack by a single shooter. The lone gunboy theory is sheer nonsense. Her son may have been an accomplice in giving these assailants access to his home, but ended up murdered as a patsy. The coven is larger and more powerful than Miss Lanza could ever have imagined. Sexual violation is the key to creating intelligent agents and assassins who are impervious to reason and mercy, lacking any original thoughts or moral qualms. Plus, a supply of children is needed in Congress and the White House to entertain the moguls, from Colombian drug lords to Israeli weapon dealers and French money launderers, not to mention America's own homegrown pervs. And they do talk about those other things in the beginning of this article, but we couldn't go into all that. So what's the motive for this to even be a thing? Payback for a double crossing. If the culprits had been Adam Lanza and his pals, then their response to grounding would have been something like posting photos and address of naked children. The method of the shooting, point-blank execution-style gunshots, indicate that the assailants were professional hitmen, probably allied with Winter Hill Gang. The Sandy Hook assault happened probably because of a split between competing institutions and diverging policies. On one hand, the gangland figures who cooperated with the CIA mind control program that promoted child sex as a means of ensuring obedience and secrecy were being challenged by politicians playing up parental demands to clean up the scandalous child sex problem in Connecticut. The dirty FBI agent John Connolly was more of a double agent and go-between for the feds and not simply a Winter Hill mole, as portraying at his sentencing. The arrest of Whitey Bulger was a pure and simple double cross by the FBI and CIA, who had used him as an ally in the MK Ultra and informant for more than a half a century. In his ambitious drive to win a U.S. senatorial seat, State Attorney General and now Senator Blumenthal broke the basic rules of mob cooperation. And now that has led to a war on the streets and in the schools. And it goes on more and more like that. So I was like, this tickles my interest. I had felt like I should just bring it up. What do you guys think?
That's a really good theory.
Yeah.
Damn. I don't even want to say my theory. My theory's weak compared to that.
Dude, no, this ties into what we just talked about with the psychiatrist being, that's why I asked you if he was involved with sexually assaulting minors, because maybe that's how Adam knew him, and that's how he became his therapist. And whenever everything popped off, dude knew it was illegal to delete documents or get rid of documents, but did it because it would have tied more important people to this scandal. And as we're seeing, we have a fuck ton of corruption involving pedophiles at political level and higher.
Epstein.
Yes. The fact that his therapist was involved with that threw up a red flag for me too. Aaron, what do you have? What do you have, dude?
What do I have for mine? Well, mine's not as telling as yours, right? It's not as
You add into that and I bet you will find some connections. I know it.
Like you were saying, like Fox. Maybe Fox dingle-dangled Adam, right? And he was working for some type of child providing ring, right? And would get these kids in these situations to where he would sexually abuse them. And then the kids would go home and the FBI or CIA would then talk to these kids online and convince them to do their biddings. Now, that may sound a little crazy, but the FBI does have a record of previously contacting mentally ill individuals online and trying to convince them to do mass murders. It is proven that they have tried to do that before. So it wouldn't cross my mind that with a mixture of maybe that and maybe some of the pharmaceutical stuff that he was on, that helped him push him over the edge. So if they had some type of agenda or whomever was pulling the strings behind there, it would just make it super easy for them to control Adam and get them to do their bidding. That's what I think. It is my personal opinion that this shooting did occur, but Adam was kind of influenced by some secret organization behind the scenes, and that pharmaceutical medication played a role in how he acted and what he did.
Okay. If we were to go online and just start searching all these murderers and Columbine and go balls deep and specifically looking up mass murders, you don't think that's going to give a red flag to somebody? Okay, this red flag becomes a green flag for somebody who wants a patsy.
Frame a patsy, a scapegoat.
100%. They're like, oh, this guy. We don't even have to really manipulate him too much because we just got to push him along and encourage him to do this. But also, what if taking these psychotropic antidepressants and stuff, there's something in them that they put to kind of allow a bit more of manipulation, especially in males. Because if you notice, 95% of mass shooters are men. I don't think I've ever heard of a woman.
That's sexist.
Hey, you look at the statistics. But what if there's something about the man's psyche or male psyche that leaves them a bit more susceptible to being manipulated? I mean, we're hypothesizing here. You know, I'm no scientist. I'm probably the least educated of the three of us, but I like to throw out ideas to just like,
We're all
I
educated.
got, my high school diploma. That's all I need. I got a month or a semester and a half of college under my belt. That's pretty good. School isn't for me, okay? But just what if there's obviously something to do with antidepressants, because every single time there's a mass shooting, they're on them. So however they got on them is variable, and maybe they were manipulated by being told to do these things and already encouraging a behavior that they felt in themselves. You know? It's could be something like that.
I'm interested in your take on it, Dan.
So, I don't know. I really like y'all's theory on the stuff. You know, I think medicine definitely played a part in it. But I'm also just like how, what were the twin sisters' name from the regular episode that you talked about, Anna?
June and Jennifer.
Yeah. The way they were raised. I think the way that Adam was treated, he was definitely treated differently, not just by like people at school and all that, by his mom as well. She definitely treated him differently. Seemed like she kind of spoiled him just to stay on his good side. And like, here, I'm gonna share my screen for a second. This is a photo I just found of him when he was like a baby.
Holy shit.
I mean, is that something you dress your kid up and then give him a real handgun and fucking lay bullets? And I'm pretty sure that's a fake grenade. I'm hoping that's a fake grenade.
Yeah, no joke.
But yeah, and like, I mean, so he was definitely raised around guns. And with the way this looks, they definitely were pretty accessible when he was younger.
Mm-hmm.
Not locked up.
It's a good find, Dan.
Yeah, it's just, but the way he was treated, they knew he was a recluse. Even though his father tried talking to him, Adam wouldn't talk to him. And it was mostly through email. It was never in person. It was, didn't even like try to come see him or anything like that. The only person that seemed to really, and I barely say see him, would be his mom. And they communicated through email. So it's like she just let it happen, let him start putting himself in pretty much like solitary confinement. He was isolated. And when he was younger in school, he made a list of things he didn't like about school. He didn't like the way the food was. He didn't like the way how the hallways were so crowded during class changes and stuff. I just don't think that he got the help he needed. And of course, the therapist got rid of all his files and stuff. Definitely seems like, oh, this is pretty much a lost case. I don't want people to see my failure. I'm gonna get rid of the evidence. Oh shit, he did that. Yeah, definitely getting rid of the files now. I don't know why he got attracted to mass shootings or just killings in general. I believe some of the stuff I found, he actually didn't seem to like women too much either. He's actually pretty much called them, they're like very selfish and all that. And I'm wondering if it's because of his mom after divorcing his father. She didn't work. She partied a lot. Then she would always take trips out of the state, leaving him at home by himself. So either she was going to like see family or something like that. She would leave him because I think one Thanksgiving she didn't even take Adam, just left him home. Then, she had Red Sox tickets, season tickets. So she was going to games and stuff. Like he was being left by himself. She was pretty much leaving him to be isolated. And I get it. He's 20 years old now. But if he has, disorders and stuff, it was just only making it worse. So it was just like, I'm guessing this was a way for him to, honestly, I can't even say what this was for. Like, it's just, it doesn't make any sense. Either, like you said, someone influenced him, like off of YouTube, all those comments and stuff he were doing, people were feeding into the shit he was saying. So pretty much, influencing him. Like, oh, he's asking this question. I'll just go ahead and feed into this because, he's asking this question and all that. He was getting information, all he needed. People, y'all know how the internet is. You can tell someone to go do this or, oh, you should go do that. Just like cyberbullying happens. But I wouldn't really call this cyberbullying except just feeding into his mental disorder that he probably had. Depression. I don't know. It's just,
What if, okay, let's say he was dealing with sex abuse growing up, and his intelligence, per se, was a defense mechanism. His dad worked for GE and probably was around a lot of smart people. But, I mean, I don't know the type. I'm just speculating here. But what if sex offenders don't like a kid that's really that intelligent because they challenge them, or maybe make them feel inferior because they might know more knowledge? And so he retaliated against being sexually abused by becoming more intelligent I'm just, like I said, just completely hypothesizing here, to try to get himself out of that. Does this sound crazy?
no.
What I was thinking about with his dad, he was a financial dude for GE, right? That's what we figured out?
That's what it said.
Okay. Well, you have him, who has a son that ends up being a mass shooter. And then the same year, you have James Holmes, who's a mass shooter. So James Holmes' dad was a highly paid executive for FICO, which is where you get your credit score typically.
Mm-hmm.
And they were connected to the LIBOR scandal, tax invasion stuff, or like lying about numbers. Peter Lanza was supposed to testify in the trials for the case. He didn't because of all this. So Peter Lanza is connected to GE tax stuff, financial guy. And then you have James Holmes, the Aurora, Colorado shooter. His dad was connected to FICO, credit score stuff. And Peter Lanza was supposed to testify in the LIBOR scandal and now isn't. But, so they're basically saying that these two guys were involved in that scandal. And of course, by some loophole in like, oh, let's put it under the rug, Peter gets out of it because of the stuff with his son.
Wow.
Could his family have been kind of patsied for that in itself? Where
Maybe.
some uppers came and killed his wife, and it wasn't actually Adam. So Adam might not have killed his mom, but instead somebody else came in and did it. But Adam was still the one who stormed the school and did all that he did because he was brainwashed by some government agency, be it MK Ultra stuff. I don't know. I mean, we're, again, hypothesizing, just talking.
Yeah.
I'm still doing some snooping. So all the swords and stuff that we found on those pictures earlier, those don't belong to Adam.
Are they Ryan's?
Tell me they belong to his mom.
They belong to Ryan, his brother. Their house was like, you had the base floor, then the second floor, but then they had a big basement. Ryan's room was pretty much the basement. And he had like, it was like 2-3 rooms down there.
He was like Harry Potter. Except like Voldemort, Harry Potter. Never
Kinda.
mind.
You tried.
He had like his own bathroom down there, own fridge down there. Like he had everything. Pretty much it looked like an entertainment room almost, because he had like all kinds of stuff down there. But compared to Adam's room, Adam would be fucking Harry Potter, if anybody. Looked like his older brother was actually more spoiled than him.
Well, he was older, but you gotta think too, and I know that I clean houses with parents that do this. When you get older and you have a basement, you want your own space to feel like you're independent, and so maybe his parents let him have the basement as his like own living space to prepare him to go into college and being his own guy.
That could definitely be it.
Well, maybe he's involved. He's an accountant.
Well, he did get arrested, and the media did say that he was the shooter. That was the initial reports. And he went on Facebook and made Facebook posts like, fuck CNN, I'm not the shooter.
Well, I mean, if you were misidentified because of an ID, I'd be pissed too at the news.
So Is the safe in Adam's room? Because from what I'm seeing, it looks like he had a safe in his room, and then he had like shelves inside the closet where the safe was, to where he had like targets and stuff that you were talking about, Anna. But his safe was open. He had like an old style, looked like Mosin in there, rifle, but it had like bullets and all that stuff in there, all kinds of ammo. So it looked like it was in his room.
Well, the Bushmaster was his mom's, and it might have just been in his room, but it was under his mom's name.
They grew up with guns and stuff, so they both could have had guns. Because the ones he had looked like they were just like semi-auto, like 22 and stuff like that. Nothing big. So I guess his mom had the more expensive stuff, you could say.
Yeah. All right. Well,
I'm not done.
you're not done? Let me hear it then.
I got this amazing thing that's going to throw you for a loop. Are you ready?
Saving the best for last. Yeah, let me hear it.
Okay.
Ooh, I found the mom's bed with the sheets and stuff on it. Oh.
Really? Yeah.
Let me see it.
Screen share. I was looking for those.
Oh, I found it.
They just spilled some wine on the bed. What are you talking about?
Yeah, some faded wine in there.
That looks like some wine.
It does look like wine, but yeah, I'm like still going through all the photos.
There's so many.
See, because look, so this is his room here. Then this is his closet. That was the gun safe.
So he had his own.
Yeah.
There were several safes in the house, gun safes.
Yeah, so that was his mom's car. She had a BMW, thanks to the father with the alimony. Nice BMW.
You know, interesting, Dan, the picture you just showed of the garage, the one I saw, the garage door was busted on the right.
Yeah, this one, it's busted, but it's kind of like hanging there. I saw that picture earlier where the door was, when it was lifted up higher, you could tell that it was like shattered.
Yeah.
In this picture here, another entrance to the basement cellar.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let me hear your theory, Anna. Let's hear it.
Okay, so there was this gentleman doing some work on checking levels at a gas pipe that had been created. There was like a loop there. His name was Mr. Colhase. Okay. And he filed stuff with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission 2 years before this happened. So this was his theory on what caused Adam to maybe be a little cray-cray. In his February 5th, 2013 letter to the police investigators, Mr. Colhase writes, "For over 3 years, Western Connecticut has been inundated with a bewildering, low-frequency noise and vibration problem that most are unaware of, and certainly being overlooked by many. Besides my personal issues with it, my wide-encompassing research to bring attention to the problem suggests far greater reaching consequences than just annoyance." He said the problem is caused by infrasonic low-frequency noise, or ILFN. These sound waves are creating various conditions inside dwellings that at times make those sensitized to it become distressed both mentally and physically. A source in Mr. Colhase's reference material also refers to the condition as gas pipeline syndrome. Mr. Colhase said the problem is known as the hum, and his research validates it and its occurrences in Connecticut as well as locations throughout the nation. He says, "I started sensing it in the late 2009 and documented a growing number of others as well in Connecticut and the nation. I need to bring to your attention data from Lanza's neighborhood I collected in the area on September 24th, 2010, used to understand the extent of where the hum is occurring." He says that he included this data in an information package to the FERC on December 12th, 2010. Additionally, he notified FERC by email on December 6th and 12th of 2012. And he said of increases of horrendous low-frequency hums for the days prior to the tragedy. Quote, "The location and intensities I observed in that neighborhood as well as certain actions of Adam Lanza brought out in the media, raise concerns that researchers have greater unappreciated the disastrous effects of long-term exposure to these type conditions on fragile people. He told investigators that the low-frequency hum is occurring throughout the nation. It is an understudied, rapidly worsening environmental stressor. The focus of my work throughout Western Connecticut are the right-of-ways of buried high-pressure natural gas lines, of which one of those is less than 1,500 feet from Lanza's home, where a pipeline loop was added prior to the manifestation of the hum. The completion of the new pipeline loop was the reason Mr. Kohlhase visited the neighborhood in 2010. And then on January 20th, 2013, he said revisited the area and reaffirmed the sound waves through the surrounding neighborhood. Quote, "It is typical that only one individual in a household is severely affected, with many neighbors saying that they aren't aware of it. Sensitized people mostly perceive it in the same way, as an idling diesel engine, some as a high-pitched buzz that mimics tinnitus." Mr. Kohlhase said other symptoms are uncomforting ear pressure, tingling floor vibrations, and health issues commonly claimed as chronic fatigue syndrome, bad enough to affect fragile people. He said 99% of the time the hum cannot be sensed outside of a building, making this a very elusive problem to solve. He also said that it could be heard inside a parked car, though. At times, the conditions are so right and so intense to cause surface puddles to vibrate and pool water to vibrate, or induce standing waves like an earthquake. He gave his concerns and communicated over and over, asking for assistance in multiple filings to the FERC, and most recently in a number of filings in October and November of 2012. He told investigators that, remembering after the tragedy my visit there in 2010, I realized my data may be important for the investigation team for something may need to be considering. One can see the hum was occurring in the neighborhood for over 2 years prior to the tragedy of December 14th, 2012. One can also see the week before December 14th, the hum intensity was horrendous in Brookfield, which is indicative of Lanza's neighborhood. One can also see the home's location is close to one of my studied gas lines. And one can also see it's still active in our neighborhoods. He closes saying the effects of it on Lanza need further investigation in this case by professionals in many fields. The entire field dealing with excessive exposure to this hum is only being appreciated by a few and lacks a concerted effort by medical, behavioral, environmental, psychoacoustic, etc. professionals. This unfortunate tragedy needs to be a tipping point to get attention to this matter. I believe contacting the state police before others is the most appropriate way to deal with this. I implore investigators to seriously consider this by engaging subject matter experts. And he has a 40-page reference document with charts and stuff like that.
Dang. I wonder if you took that information, I wonder if he's studied any more of those readings and tried to like cross-reference them to other mass shooters and where they lived.
It would be a good read. I certainly did not have time to go looking for the 40-page reference document.
So, how far away was it from Lanza's house?
1,500 feet.
So I did read up something else, that the neighbor of Lanza, a UConn student, I believe also committed a shooting.
No way.
Yes.
Okay, that's very suspicious.
Yeah, I didn't read too much into him because I was still looking up Lanza stuff, but supposedly...
Yeah, the University of Connecticut student Peter Manfredona.
Yep, that's him.
Was a student that went on a killing spree. He grew up on the same street as Adam Lanza and claimed he snapped in the same way.
Whoa. Yeah, well, how many of these are around that we don't know about? I was sitting in my bed the last 2 days and I've been hearing a ringing in my ears. And usually I interpret that as a spiritual thing. But it was a little different. And then I started thinking, do I have one of these fucking gas lines around me? Am I gonna snap?
So where do you live? So I know where not to go. No.
Dude.
All right. So, has anybody got any final statements, final things, final theories, final additions to this episode?
Negative.
No. But Hans is going to be disappointed you didn't have a stronger reaction to that, Aaron. He was ready for you to be slapped in the face with that nuke bomb.
What, the
hum, yeah.
The hum? Yeah, I hear it all the time. It kind of freaked me out.
Yeah, I was just like, every now and then things will go quiet and that's all I hear, and then instant's gone. I'm just like okay.
That happens to me too. It's almost like a concussion grenade goes off in one ear.
Yes.
It goes completely deaf. I hear a ringing noise for like 2 seconds. It goes away and my sound comes back in the ear.
It's probably someone trying to get your attention, like I said, spiritually, and you need to meditate on that.
Or I'm got like a medical illness.
Yeah, like tinnitus or something like that.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, I used to listen to loud music, so it could be possible.
I guess this is it. Like we said, we'll make an announcement later on about our season 3 and when the launch day is. Until then, we'll still be pumping out Patreon episodes. I want to thank you all for joining us today. And again, thank you for your support. I love all of you. So with that being said, Dan and Anna, you want to roll us out?
Sure will. It's okay to be out of this world with your thoughts.
Because you're not alone.
Boom.
This is a Sleepycast Lost episode. Jesus R. Christ, featuring Psychic Pebbles, Spaz Kid, and Niall. My name is Captain Dickhead. Spreading my butt cheeks and staring at my asshole in the mirror is one of my secret delights.
Man, Christians are weird, aren't they?
Christians?
You want to talk about a weird group? Christians. Not to be insensitive.
What pisses me off most about the whole Christian culture is the fact that, like, now they're, like, intertwined with everything we fucking do. So let me tell you a situation with the whole Christian thing. So I woke up one morning and I had this whole, like, game plan set out. I had the works. I had everything set up. Tomorrow I was going to go to the bank and pull money out. The bank was fucking closed, but it was on Monday. I'm like, it's not President's Day. It's not Columbus Day. It's not one of those glorious holidays. I'm like, it can't be anything special.
One of your all-time favorites. George Washington looking down at you from above corner.
Last week we were saying it was Halloween. This week we're saying it's fucking...
President's Day is the best. I go back.
I go back to my important story. So I wanted to go to... I couldn't go to the bank, and I wanted to go to Giants that day, and Giants was closed. And I'm like, what the fuck? What holiday is today? And it was fucking Easter. It's fucking Easter, the national Christian holiday.
You're saying you're not excited by the day that Jesus ran to a big rabbit and put him up on the cross.
I thought the rabbit laid Jesus in an egg, and Jesus came out and he goes, hello, and that's confetti everywhere.
I heard Jesus ripped the skin off a rabbit, put it on, gave the chocolate to the poor Indonesian boys.
Why was the rabbit have chocolate in it?
How do you think he got?
Because that was popular at the time.
Guys, how do you think he got out of the cave? He was like, if I go back out there, everyone's gonna go, hey, that guy, we killed him. So he was like, I'll dress like a rabbit, give kids Easter eggs, so hey, it's a giant rabbit, not Jesus.
Look
it's
it up.
A perfect way to escape.
This is on www.truthism.com. This is an actual fact.
Go there and get fucking. Oh, shut up.
You wake up. This will wake you up.
This is it. Jesus wore
sheep.
So technically, Jesus was the first furry.
Jesus was the first furry.
He made the first furry convention, giving people chocolates.
He also had
Did he wear
furry experiences?
He had the first diaper fetish too.
Did he have the little
Jesus would put his diaper and giggle and pull little chocolates to give to the kids.
You know the butt plugs with the tails?
The fucking Jesus had a butt plug tail that he bought from Bad Dragon.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah,
I think so.
His little bunny, and did he hop around with his like hands limply on his chest?
You said something about baby Jesus.
Baby Jesus farted his little diaper and giggling.
Well, that's the thing. Like it's like
he had to have farted.
We gotta remember baby Jesus. It's like baby Jesus grew up. Baby Jesus fucking died on the cross for your sins. Like he's not baby Jesus anymore.
Do you think baby Jesus like
he was
farted?
Baby face. I think it.
He had to have farted,
dude. When I was a kid,
no.
you know
he had an ass. That's what he stuck his dildo into.
Oh yeah.
When I was a kid, when I was a kid,
insensitive.
you know, Jesus is 33 years old. When I was a kid, I misheard somebody. They said they said he was 3 years old. But for some reason, I thought this little baby grew into a full-size man in 3 years, and nobody questioned it.
Well, he
I
is
was
Jesus.
Like, I was like,
I mean,
well,
like-
that makes fucking
like,
sense.
if a baby grew,
He's Goshes.
if a baby grew like 33 years, I believe
in
he's a
3
prophet.
years,
Yeah, well, Tom Hanks did that.
he grew 33 years in 3 years.
Tom Hanks was
He did
touched
the
by
opposite.
Gosh. Tom Hanks. Is
Oh no, he
actually-
did that.
No,
You're
he
right.
did,
He did that. You're
Brad
right.
Pitt did the opposite.
Benjamin
Yeah.
Button.
I thought that was Robin Williams, who was Benjamin Button.
Oh no, that was Brad Pitt.
Which one's the one where Robin Williams plays this like 13-year-old boy and like a 40-year-old
That's
body?
Jack.
Oh yeah, is that the one?
That's what I'm talking about.
Is that the one that I'm thinking of?
No, Jack is the one where it's like a kid has an aging disease where he gets old really
Oh, and
fast.
Tom Hanks was in Big.
So he really is Jesus then.
Yeah.
If anybody's Jesus, because Tom Hanks had a bullshit like gypsy thing, right? He had the machine that turned him older.
Yeah.
So technically, Robin Williams is Jesus.
Yeah, because he naturally
aged 3 years.
But isn't that movie actually about progeria? I think it is. I think it's based on the disease progeria,
think it
the
is
aging
too.
disease. But if you
No,
look
it
up
is,
someone,
yeah.
but if you look up someone with progeria, they don't look like a fully grown man. They don't.
No, if you tell somebody, oh yeah, the 10-year-olds or the
it's like
the
Well, hey,
80-year-old bodies.
well,
Yeah,
you got to think
they
of it this
don't.
way. You got to think of it this way. They're not going to go up to someone and be like, "Hey, you have progeria. You want to play?"
progerian.
Could you imagine
Yeah, you
Tom
wanna be
Hanks
a
with
progerian?
progeria like makeup on? Nobody would watch that.
No, I'm
movie. It'd bum
serious.
everybody
Like,
out.
you can't just go up to someone who has it and you're like, "Hey, would you like to star in a movie where we talk about your illness?" And they'd be like, "I'm offended."
He'd have to walk around like a progerian.
Well, Tom Hanks played like.
I'm not knocking
Wait, hold on.
progerians. I'm just saying.
I have
nobody would
nothing.
watch
I have
Progerian.
nothing.
Planet Progeria.
I have nothing against progerian.
Wait, progerian is a word we just coined, by
It's
the
a
way.
race.
I have nothing against progerian.
Babies.
I think this episode is the most insensitive episode so far.
You know what pisses me off? Christian music.
What don't you like about Christian music?
It's not
Well, I don't
that.
think you ever-
It's
you
not the
did.
concept of Christian music. It's just there's something about it. Like when I'm listening to a song, doesn't matter how good it is, and then they bring up a line where it's like Jesus is with me. It's like, okay, now the song's ruined. I enjoyed the vocals and I enjoyed the fucking guitaring, but now you just sung about something
It's
that's
the
been
New Age Protestant
regurgitated.
Christians who do. It's like, you know, the New Age Protestant rock
Yeah.
Christians, like they try to appeal to the youth.
it's
It's
like-
like,
it's
they're like,
a-
Jesus is in
it's
my
a-
ear,
but it-
kissing me every night.
It's the same.
Jesus is my hero.
What pisses me off is it's the same message that you've regurgitating for like fucking 20 years. Like we've heard it before from the previous guy who fucking
Jesus
baby
thinks
vomited
you're
over
cool.
there.
Yeah.
We heard it.
Blank anything is funny to me. Christian comedy, Christian music.
comedy.
Yeah, it's like it's their own
Christian
sect.
comedy.
Christian
Oh my
humor.
god.
It's like they're acknowledging the fact that it's not real comedy, so they have to call it Christian comedy.
They're never jokes either. It's never like self-deprecating. It's always like, knock, knock, who's there? Jesus, let him in.
Zach, you were on Netflix, and you were watching a fucking like Dane Cook equivalent of a Christian comedian who was like up there.
To be the Dane Cook
impersonating-
of Christian comedy is pretty fucking long.
Wait, did someone say that?
That's what he was.
He was.
I mean, you could look at him. You could be like, "Wow, this is like Dane Cook for old people," because he was up there. He was talking. He was like on the road, and he's like, "Yeah, it's like a trucker." He's basically just saying like, get out of the way." Get out of the way, or something like the horn. Like he started doing this thing where he was personifying the noises things make, like what dogs make, like when a dog's
Give me
barking.
food, give me food,
Yeah,
whatever.
like it's like I heard that when I was in 3rd grade, and they were tossing fucking keys in my face. Tell me a new one. It wasn't funny, yet people were sitting in the audience.
Do you think
It was
falling out of
hosted.
their
It was
seat.
hosted by the fucking. I think it was the wife from Everybody Loves Raymond.
Oh,
it was
yeah,
some
yeah,
weird
yeah,
like.
yeah,
I was like,
yeah,
what?
yeah.
Why is she in this?
Dude, she was pulling out some pretty serious like fucking stabs at like atheists and all these like for a
Those
Christian.
goddamn atheists need to have.
Were they actually doing atheist jokes?
Yeah, they're like, what's my favorite thing about atheists? They go to hell, die. Yeah, everyone's
Really?
Everyone's
they do that.
clapping.
They do
That's
that.
pretty good though.
They're foaming at
You're
their
a good
mouth.
Christian comic.
Their Spit is.
Watch, you want to hear a joke, Corey? Corey, you be the audience, I'll be the Christian guy, okay?
All right, I'm studio audience.
My favorite thing about Jesus is the way he's very cool and he come back from the dead too.
Thank you. It's pretty
Knock,
good.
knock, who's there? Jesus come back. Jesus said his car broke down. He wants us to worship him.
Jesus.
If someone on stage did that, I'd
If
laugh.
Jesus knock on your heart, you better let him in. He ain't no trick-or-treater, I'll tell you that much.
Trick-or-treaters are the devil.
I actually fucking laughed.
Celebrating demons.
if you see a demon, a demon might be like this. You know what I mean?
You sound like fucking blue collar TV. If you celebrate Jesus, you might be a Christian.
If you believe in Jesus, you might be a Christian. All right, let's get
Do you remember that
Comedy
shit?
Central on the
That's
phone.
that was so bad. I remember that shtick with the whole fucking like, if you got 2 beers in one hand and they're warm and you're like, honey, throw me another one, you might be a redneck. It's like yes, but I
If
can't
you
relate.
fuck your sister and your kid has 7 toes, you might be a redneck.
That's what I heard one.
Wait, might be a redneck? Are they Christian jokes? Because I can imagine a lot
No.
of... Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
They're like wife beating beer jokes that
Yeah.
aren't funny.
Yeah, it's like if your boat is a second.
Yeah,
if your boat is your guest room or something.
If your boat is named John Deere II, you might be a redneck.
I don't get it. I don't get it.
if your washcloths.
Listen, I was born in the Outback, so I know these kinds of things.
Outback Steakhouse, more like.
That's a good place. They got you them good foods.
Let's go to Outback Steakhouse right now, guys.
Outback Steakhouse, Bloomin' Onion.
This podcast is brought to you by the Olive Garden.
Were you guys both raised in like a Christian family?
Well,
Yes.
my family are kind of Christian. They're not like super religious, but they identify as Christians.
You said your dad dressed up as Jesus every year and walked around the house like saying, "Nail me, nail me, nail me." Is that true?
Yeah, well, that is true. But it was only once a year, and we kind of saw it coming. So
that was always kind of
we all
weird.
left the house when that happened.
You got tired of this thing? Oh, the nail bit. Okay, Dad.
Yeah.
See, for me,
We knew when it was coming.
for me, like there was a point where I was Christian, like part time for like one side of my family.
Oh, just like 40 hours a week?
Yeah, like I worked a steady Christian job of going to do Christian things for 40 to 20 hours a month.
Yeah.
Basically, my dad's side, he only really did church things when he wanted to fuck someone. So when my dad wanted to fuck a chick,
Your dad is like the dudes from Wedding Crashers.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's like, oh, she's really into like God and stuff. So you better enjoy it. And I'm like, Dad, church is okay.
Your dad tried to lure you to church and be like, "You better be
Your
a good
dad,
man."
you were your dad's wingman?
I would have to go with him because like I lived with him, but
Would your dad get jealous if she got into you instead?
I don't know.
Like she was like, "You got a big dick on you." Don't you,
What?
boy?"
It doesn't sound like blue collar TV. Starring Comedy Central's first. Okay, no, but like with my mom, she's pretty much like believes in Jesus and God and stuff, but she believes to a point where she's like, God's in all of us. I don't think you need to go to some fucking rank old building and listen to some dude talking.
Yeah, well, that's
about.
not. If it gives you peace and like you don't shove it in people's faces, I think
That's
fine.
exactly what my mom says. My mom's like, people that say you have to go to church or you're gonna go sin and go to hell. It's like you don't. If you just believe in God or you have God in your whole, and you're a Christian, that's good enough because it's like, when the fuck did God say you had to go to a place and listen to some?
I respect people's belief. People can believe whatever they want to. As long as they're not shoving your face in
That's
it.
what I'm talking about, though.
But people are still allowed to ridicule anything they want to.
Yeah,
except for Islam.
Well, that's a whole other.
That's our last episode.
Yeah, exactly. Like people think like.
Have you been back to church being a non-believer? It is very creepy. I went back there I went back to church for Christmas last year. And you sit there, it's a big dark room. Like when you're there, it's like, yeah, whatever, it's church. But when you go back, from the perspective of I don't really believe this that much or whatever, it's very cultish, if I can say that. You know what I
they're
mean?
all like,
because they're all saying it in monotone voices. Yeah, it's like Christ has come, Christ has risen, Christ will come again.
Yeah, see, like,
when you hear like 1,000 people singing that in unison, it's very creepy because you're kind of looking around like.
And they're all like
supposed to
dead-eyed, just
sing
looking
it.
at the altar, going,
It's passage B6. You were supposed to sing along.
Yeah.
That's not even a real passage in the Holy Bible.
B6? Is it a fucking manual?
B6?
Is it a manual to build a chair, Corey?
I sunk your battleship.
Fuck.
No,
That actually sounds like B6.
it probably is. The last
Yours is better than mine was. Mine made no
the
sense.
last time I went to church, like the last time, and there was like some like Ellen DeGenerate set up like stage thing at the bottom, and then there was like these people who came out. They were like, hip young Christian doers, and they were talking in their book, and they're like, "Hey, you guys want to hear a passage from Jesus?" And everyone's like screaming.
Corey, weren't you tied up in Sunday school?
Oh yeah, Corey has a story
That was a
about
while ago.
Yeah, you want to tell the audience about that?
Oh, I went to Sunday school, and the people didn't feel like watching us, so they used to tie us down with those like fucking like jump rope type ropes. They would tie us down to those fucking like shitty play school chairs at the plastic
hollow
tables.
plastic ones that you knock.
Yeah. They used to tie us down to that and make us watch VeggieTales.
Now you're Irish, so I don't think you've been exposed to VeggieTales, have you?
What's VeggieTales?
Oh
VeggieTales is shit.
God.
It was good. It was a good cartoon show for what it was worth at the time.
Man, VeggieTales.
I have an idea of what it is already.
It's talking Christian vegetables that teach you how good God is.
I saw a video of this Christian cartoon, and
for what it's worth, it's a good show.
I saw this video of a Christian cartoon, and they were all singing a song nonchalantly, so they're all like, "Jesus has risen," and then
were they vegetables?
They were just these like ugly character designs, and it just went from one character to the other,
just like every other Christian thing.
And then they're all like, and they're all like, la, 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 la. And then one of them goes, "A blood sacrifice," and then they just keep going on again, just nonchalantly. And it's like, wait a minute, go back. It's like, "A blood sacrifice." That's how they fucking ingrain that shit into kids' heads.
You brought something up. Have you noticed that almost anything that's Christian and people want to make something, it's always like this horrible quality?
Yeah, they always have this horrible like designs, and they all like
it's just like really bad quality.
Worked on one of those shows. There was one show called it was like Bible Adventures or something, and I need to find it.
It was made with fucking Go Animate. There was this guy who made a Kickstarter for Go Animate. He needed to buy everything, and it was like $5,000 to buy anything.
I think it was like $5,000 or $10,000.
Go Animate is like the biggest scam for kids. And it's like kids are like, "Mom, get your credit card out. I got a deal of brewing."
That's like that Christian comedy pilot.
It's like that Club Penguin thing, like all those like little kid things. It's a genius like marketing idea to get like, because kids are idiots. They're gonna buy into that shit.
I guarantee.
That's why they indoctrinate kids with that. Like,
I guarantee there was like a Christian like fucking group that took Go Animate as an opportunity to start making Christian cartoons.
Do you ever feel like amazing on Sunday morning when you're driving or walking and you see everybody like walking in or out of church and you're like, oh, I don't have to be there. Well, it's such a good feeling.
Well, yeah, because you're older, your parents aren't making you go.
Exactly. It's like I haven't gone to church in fucking.
Listen, kids, if you go to church, just sneak out the back and smoke a few cigs.
I think my parents
smoke a joint right in Jesus' face.
The one thing that's kind of nice about church is like the sense of community, because I think that's why my parents actually went, because they get to see like their neighbors and stuff. I don't know.
You want to see your ugly neighbors under Jesus' disgusting statue? Wow.
Well, they do. I don't.
Wow, this is sensitive.
Motherfuckers.
I know what you're talking about, like the conversing outside.
Yeah, they all white male, you fucking cis.
Do you know cysts?
That was a joke.
Benign tumors.
Yeah.
Cysts are benign tuners?
You're not even drunk, Corey. You've been drinking coffee.
Now you guys know just how I am when I'm sober.
Yeah, this is the real Corey.
There's
unplugged.
No excuse. He is 100% sober right now. First you said Ellen DeGenerate. Now this, Corey.
Man,
the Ellen DeGenerate show.
Degenerates. Degenerate's like a slur, like it's like a negative. You fucking degenerate, get off my lawn.
I actually remember my 8-year-old sister once going, "Ellen DeGeneres," and I go, "No, Ellen DeGeneres." Oh, she goes, "Oh, that makes sense." Age 23, dude.
Dude, I know.
24.
24, 23. Age is just a number. I can still be a 6-year-old.
Yeah, 2 + 4 is 6. The two numbers.
I didn't think about that.
You know what I also thought about? I know it's a pretty redundant thought by this point, but there's going to be some point in the future where a president will have had a YouTube account as a child. Like right now, there's potentially a president calling some kid a faggot on a machinima video, and he's gonna run the country in like 30 years. Isn't that fascinating? Or 40 years or whatever.
No, seriously, that is the truth.
In the future,
there's not going to be any anonymity.
If you look up
anonymity,
I can't say that.
If you look up
anonymity.
Anonymous.
Anonymous.
Anonymity.
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 Astronomy.
Anonymity.
Astronomy.
Wait, I really can't do this. Wait.
Anonymity.
No. Wait. You're confusing me now.
Anonymous.
No, say the real one.
Anabeam.
No, say the real one.
Anabeam.
Say the real one.
Anonymous.
Hippopotamus.
Fuck, I can't do it. I sound like a jet. Wait.
Anonymity.
Anonymity.
Inanimate objects.
Inanimate objects. Yeah, I can say that. Inanimate objects.
Anonymity.
You can't say it either, Corey. Why am I getting this?
You already know I can't say stuff. Anonymity.
That's what I've been saying. No, you said anonymity.
Do it.
Anonymity.
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 People have already closed out of the podcast.
Yeah. All right, goodbye.
Okay, well,
No, seriously.
so
Anonymity.
Well, so anyways, I was just saying, like,
Oh, yeah,
there's
yeah.
gonna be a point in time in the future where a president
no,
is
I
debating somebody.
was gonna say something.
Right.
I was gonna say, look up Obama Gerald Jr. Look at his first YouTube video.
What is this?
Obama Gerald Jr. Look at his
Jail?
first Gerald.
Oh, Gerald.
Look at his first YouTube video.
That's his second name, of course. Obama's second name.
Who's Obama Gerald Jr.?
Who do you think's running the country? Obama Gerald. That's his name, dude.
Obama Gerald Jr.
What about Barack?
That's his
his
alias.
middle
That's what
name.
that's his, yeah, they call him that.
Now I
Okay,
know
well,
you're
listen.
bullshitting.
You look him up. Look up Obama Gerald Jr.
I like how when you're thinking of a future president, you put the current president
Look
in
him
the
up.
because you can't.
He's lip syncing to Britney Spears. Bye bye bye.
You know,
That was
there's
in
a
sync, dude.
there's a video that was.
Same thing.
Did you guys hear this? There's a video of Vladimir Putin that was leaked yesterday of him lip syncing City Escape. He was singing that song on YouTube. They
Oh,
discovered
from
it.
Sonic. Oh no, I thought it was the Sonic Or song.
No, it's City Escape.
Living in the city.
Corey, you know City Escape.
Listen, being a fraternal faggot Sonic fan,
Why do you keep saying
I
paternal?
know that if he sung
On your
a
father's
Sonic
side?
R song and he sung "Living in the City," people would fucking be like, "You're not a real Sonic fan because you like Sonic R, and that makes you gay."
You know you have
And
to
Putin's-
survive.
And Putin wouldn't want that reception.
But all I'm saying is there's going to be a
fans.
point in the future where every president has like their entire online history all the way until age like 2 or whenever they started using it. So you can go see a president's Facebook page, and that's going to be used against people in the future. It's like, well, my opponent here
Dressed up like Naruto for
yeah,
when
he dressed up like
fucking-
Naruto and did the hand signs. and
did
he
one
was,
of
he
those,
was 15. He was way too old for that. That's me.
You do one of those like Linkin Park
like, yeah, dude,
Naruto
Yeah,
videos.
you were singing in your room. You were singing Linkin Park. That shit's like fucking 20 years old, dude. What do you got on me? He's like,
Yeah.
yeah, well,
I relate to
I
it.
looked around. I looked at the wallpaper. What?
Favorite Christian videos. It's like, dude, there was. You know what I mean? It's going to be like one of those things where it's constant back and forth.
So we're talking about Christian stuff. Talk about your Christian life, Zach. You were a Christian.
Yeah, I was raised Christian. My dad was Catholic and my mom was Protestant, so it was always an interesting balance. My dad never really practiced though. Like he never really went to church.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Did you used to go into the bathroom and take like the 9-tailed cat whip and hit yourself in the back and be like, "I'm a terrible son"?
No, the priest used to do that for me. He used to be like, "You little bitch, you little fucking apologize to Jesus." And then have a guy come
In
in
your
Jesus.
room?
Yeah.
While you were trying to brush your teeth? Like,
Yeah, I was
stop,
brushing my
dude.
teeth and Jesus would come in and slap me, be like, "Apologize, faggot. I saw what you did today. You fucking slapped the back of my head." Jesus would torment me. I was in the shower one time taking a shower. Jesus walked in and was like, "Can I smell dick? You call that a dick, little baby boy?" And he slapped my ass with a towel. He said, "Good game." And I was like, "Dad?"
Dude, the same thing happened to me. That's why,
Yeah.
if you're gonna follow Jesus, make sure you're on his good side because Jesus.
He is a dick if you irritate
All right,
him.
Jesus was laying. I was like, I need to sit on the couch, and Jesus was like sprawled out, and he's like, "Sorry, there's no room." And he didn't have any fucking pants on. He had Cheetos in his fucking
And you were
lap.
like, "Dude, move your legs and like sit down like you're supposed to on the couch." And he was like,
He did like one of those like 90-degree L farts in my face.
"Yeah, he spread his
Like one of his legs were like straight and
Yeah.
it was 90
And then
degrees.
I was like, dude, I need to watch this. He's like, what, porn? And then he was like high-fiving ghosts and shit.
Yeah, he was like, "Yes." It was like, Jesus, if you're gonna make a joke, you can't congratulate yourself.
Yeah, it's like, what are you, 8? And he's like,
Jesus, you've been watching fucking Shark Week on Netflix for the last 2 weeks. To get up and do something.
Wait, was he watching Shark Week for 2 weeks?
I don't know because
Like,
it's
there's
backed up.
inconsistencies in your story.
you know what?
This is Jesus, I
This
know.
this is what pisses me off. Okay, I waked
About
up.
Jesus?
Yeah, no, like another thing, like when he's like sprawled down eating Cheetos and L farting, I come downstairs and he's TiVoing all of Nick Jr. And it's like, dude, I'm way too old for this stuff. I'm an adult. And he's like, yeah.
Yeah, I just listen to it for background noise. It's like, but dude, I saw you one time watching.
you were singing the Blues Clues song. You were fucking singing the Blues Clues.
You were singing Go Diego Go, the spin-off
And
from
your
Dora the
diaper, by the
Explorer.
way.
Go Diego Go was such a bullshit.
And by the
spin-off.
way, Jesus, we clean your diapers out of your fucking. You throw them in the laundry bin. That's not where your diapers go, dude. That is not where your diapers go.
Yeah,
What the
you sell them on eBay to your fans on your diaper YouTube channel.
Jesus, just because you review diapers on YouTube doesn't mean you're paying rent. You get 5 cents from CPM. All right? You can't
Jesus,
live. You can't live.
Nobody
forever.
cares about your fucking like vintage Peanuts diapers. Like, I mean,
Wait, let's pull up the video of Jesus doing the diaper review. 1 second.
Hey y'all, it's my Jesus. Got some new diapers here. Picked them up at Walmart for $2.95. And we got a nice fabric here for my duty to fall into. Just kidding. All right. I'm gonna lay a big old nugget in this one. It's got some striped patterns on this. Okay, well that's all for today. Goodbye.
Yes.
What a weird video. His voice sounds stupid too. Can you believe that?
Yeah, and
Who the fuck? Listen.
he
to that
actually
guy.
sounds oddly like the blue collar dude from earlier.
Yeah, I know. Weird.
These guys probably think we're talking about Jesus.
You mean like
Jesus H. Christ.
we were talking about Jesus or Christ? It's a different guy.
Yeah, Jesus or Christ. Like, he lives in Jamaica.
His dad runs Toys R Us. It's a whole misconception. Sorry about that, guys. You thought we meant Jesus.
I feel so
H.
bad.
Christ.
I understand that the correlation of us talking about
We
Christianity.
must sound like jerks right about now.
No, we had a Jamaican friend. His name was Jesus R. Christ.
Yeah. He also
He was kind of an asshole.
and he used to dress as a bunny
And
rabbit.
it's not because he's Jamaican he was an asshole. That would be insensitive. No, he was an asshole because he went out of his way to review diapers, spill shit everywhere, fucking TiVo every single episode of fucking
Blue's Clues.
But no, you have any crazy Christian experiences that you had to go through when you were a little baby boy?
No, but there was one priest who was in my parish, and he was.
What is a parish? I was a Catholic and I still don't know what that is.
Oh well, I think it might just be an Irish thing.
I
But
could be a
it's
bad
like,
Catholic. I don't know.
a parish is like a gang. No, it's like a hood. It's
A gang of priests
No,
that walk around.
No, it's like
What
a
color
community.
are
It's like
they?
one community is one parish. One
What
community.
color is their hood?
Oh, dude, they're all wear white. Scary as fuck, man.
Dude, that's actually
There's
that's
another
a real
place
race.
here that wears all white too. I think their club, a little here called.
Oh, yeah,
called the Republicans. Political.
You know, here's something you didn't know about a Republicans. What's that, old man? Get off your walker, you geriatric. Oh, what's that? Sorry, we don't play fucking tiddlywinks and ball and cup anymore. This is the 21st century, okay? The calculator isn't computer, Grandpa. The calculator is something you use to learn math problems, Grandpa.
Republic can't not be racist, you fucks.
Democrats, hey, what's up? Cool, pool party at 10? Be there.
Now that is good. Guys, I think we got into the political satire area. I think our fans are going to love it. I think they're going to love our political side.
Yeah, Zach likes to doodle in his spare time. He had one.
Gross old Republican men and fucking like hip dramatics.
He had one recently, and it was Obama sitting in a bathtub, and he was washing himself with drones.
He was washing himself with taxpayer money and saying, "We'll wash, we'll
He was
wash
bathing.
the mistakes off."
No, he was bathing in taxpayer
Oh, right,
money.
right. It said they won't wash my mistakes off.
Yeah.
And the rubber ducky was Ronald Reagan.
What?
Yeah.
So we're talking.
You just don't get it. You'll figure it
We're
out.
talking. We're talking about Christians.
Oh yeah.
Can you think of anything other Christian?
Rooster Teeth production.
Since the 1400s, there has existed a very bizarre phenomenon. Without any discernible source of ignition, individuals would burst into flames. It is believed that the source of the fire came from within their own bodies. So today, we're going to analyze the history of spontaneous human combustion. This is Red Web. Welcome back to another Mystery Monday. I'm Trevor Collins. With me, as always, Alfredo Diaz, coming in with the gut check, perhaps.
Wait, that's
What?
Is this? It's a real thing.
We're talking about spontaneous human combustion. Who knows?
I mean,
Is
like,
it?
I guess, like, it's a conspiracy, but like for real.
Is it real?
I thought it was just something that's in the movies.
It's in the movies and it's in real life, so, purportedly. All right, so this is going to be another one of those like interesting episodes that we do that kind of breaks the mold, kind of like the Randonautica one, where it's another ongoing mystery series that we're talking about. It's a topic that doesn't really have an opening shut case. It's just an ever-living mystery that we want to kind of take a look at. Some classic cases of what's going on here, some stories, some firsthand accounts, and then we'll make our own conclusions at the end, you know?
Oh, I wasn't expecting that. That's, oh man.
So you've only heard of this in the movies?
Yeah, I've only, it's like, such and such, what happened? Oh, I don't know. They spontaneously combusted. And, like, it's just in the movies. That's all I know about. Just like, this is a thing in the movies. I didn't think that this was something that was, well, not, I don't want to say real, but debated to be real.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense, to
Cool.
be fair.
Cool. I mean, you don't hear on the news or see on like
Right.
a Twitter trending that someone just combusted.
Right. News today as another person drops dead from flames out of their God knows what.
Out of their gullet.
Out of the gullet. Yeah, it's super interesting. And honestly, you don't hear about it a whole lot. So I don't blame you for kind of associating that with movies and whatnot. Just pop culture in general has really latched onto it as an idea. But yeah, it's really fascinating. So what we're going to do is we're going to break down some classic cases, looking back into the history of this phenomenon and kind of how it got its start, perhaps, or the first kind of encounters with it. Obviously, it has to have a first documented instance. And then we're going to talk about some more modern cases because it does have a very long history of occurrences, but they're all very rare and few and far between. So we'll jump around and kind of see if we can start to figure out any commonalities before diving into just the phenomenon as a whole and any theories trying to address it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is different.
Let's get the task force badges just on straight. Here we go. And let's dive in. Get your notepads out, okay? Because we're gonna be scribbling down a lot of we're gonna be actively trying to solve this.
God damn.
All right. So the first recorded case of spontaneous human combustion occurred all the way back in 1470. It was an Italian knight named Polonius Vorstius who had been heavily drinking wine in his home. His parents saw this happen and claimed that Polonius was vomiting fire at the time. And that's a simple story. That's all we really know about this first instance. And we'll kind of dive into why later. But yes, it's a very small encounter, not a whole lot of detail there, but you might pick up, even in the small details, some commonalities between this and some other ones. So let's flash forward a few centuries here. In 1726, there was an innkeeper named Nicole Millay, who was also recorded to having passed away from spontaneous human combustion. She was also known to be a heavy drinker, so we have a commonality there, boom, flag. And her skull and some vertebrae were the only bones found, in addition to her feet that were left entirely unburned, by the way. So now in the remains, you have some ashes, you have some vertebrae in the back, you have the skull, and you have two entirely unburned, almost untouched feet.
All right, see, here comes the whole crazy conspiracy portion.
Mm-hmm.
You're telling me these people vomiting fire? That sounds just real unfortunate.
Oh, painful.
Painful. How do you recover from that?
I would say one doesn't.
I mean, you could gut check. You could persuade me and say chemical X, Y, and Z mix within the gut or something like that, and then here we go, boom,
bada boom, bada bing.
It just stops burning once it gets to the feet.
Man, that was a nat 20 persuasion roll right there. I think you were putting down some good numbers. So not a whole lot of people have come out of this alive, and we'll kind of get around to that. But yeah, regardless of it taking their lives in that moment or later on due to wounds or whatever. But yeah, it doesn't sound like a fantastic way to go if one were to select. But what's even further more interesting about this case here, not only just the feet that were unburned, but there was a straw bed and a wooden piece of furniture nearby that were also entirely unaffected by the fire.
Okay. All right. Okay. Come on. Okay. All right. Okay.
You've seen Hereditary. You've seen how that can, happen, right? That's a documentary right there.
Yeah. Total documentary. It really happened.
So as you can imagine, right, Millay's husband was suspected of having murdered her because you're like, all right, exactly your reaction. Come on, right? Well, suspected of murder. However, there was a testimony of a doctor named Dr. Claude Nicolas Lecat, or Dr. the Cat, if you want to be English about it, convinced a court that her death was an act of God. And that's it. So the husband walks free. They determine that it's not murder of any sort, and that something else was going on here, that there was some sort of phenomenon. In fact, Millay's story was written about, and I'm going to struggle here because it's Latin, but in the De Insidis Corporis Humani Spontaneus, which is the first reliable source of information regarding this phenomenon. It's an old text that kind of documented cases of spontaneous human combustion, bringing it into the public eye as a potential threat rather than just a scary story. And it's actually the same document or text that inspired Charles Dickens to include it in his novel, Bleak House. So that's how it's starting to enter the pop culture realm, all the way back in the 1700s. I can hear you struggling. I can hear, you're a little flabbergasted. I believe it.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me back then, to just be like, God did that. You know what I mean? We had witch hunts back then and all kinds of like weird stuff. Things that humans didn't understand. So they were just like, crazy stuff happened. Magic.
Yeah. To be fully burned down to the skull and backbones. I mean, just those bones, none of the other ones, I guess. But also the feet. Very strange.
Yeah, it's so precise.
Yeah, it's very precise. Which fire is not a precise kind of thing.
It's not. And if it was just like, okay, everything went but, bones or cartilage or something like that, then you can kind of like narrow it down to be like, okay, like, obviously, the fire is not going to be hard enough to just burn through bone like that. Like it needs a lot of time. It needs to be really, really hot, etc. But if fire isn't out there picking and choosing,
right? Well, let's dive into the next case and see if we could pick up any more commonalities here. So we have Matilda Rooney and her husband Patrick, who were found dead after, once again, another suspected case of human combustion. This was unfortunately on December 25th of 1885. So Merry Christmas. A family friend was staying with them, John Larson, who was staying the night upstairs. Larson claimed that Matilda drank a lot before, so another instance of heavy consumption of alcohol. Patrick's body was found laying on the floor of the couple's bedroom and was found to have passed away, not from combustion, but rather smoke inhalation. Matilda, on the other hand, was found cremated, except again for her skull, and both of her feet remained in shoes. And the only source of fire that was in this room that the bodies were found was a half-burned candle on the Rooney's kitchen table. So the question has to be asked, what burned so hot and so big to once again, burn this whole body down to the skull and leaving just the feet behind and producing enough smoke that it could kill the husband within the same room? And to kind of cap this case off, that makes it a little strange as well, is, the police suspected that the Rooneys might have been murdered by Larson. So on one hand, they're saying, okay, well, you're the only person around. Clearly, there's some sort of foul play at hand. And on the other hand, they're actually sitting there going, I don't know. Based on everything we can tell, this could be one of those rare cases of human combustion. Ultimately, Larson passed away 2 weeks later, also from smoke inhalation. So we have a situation where this woman's body went up in a very quick blaze. It must have been very quick to not affect, once again, anything else around them, and produced enough smoke that it killed not only the husband, but the guest that was upstairs 2 weeks on.
See, that tells me that, okay, I believe that there is actual fire involved, right? Because what motive does the doctor have to sit there and go, I'm just going to say it's like inhalation or, smoke, they just inhaled smoke and then all of a sudden, that messed up their lungs and their system, and that was that. There's like no reason to lie there. There's not really any like random motive, and that's pretty scientific stuff. Like that is something that happens, you know what I mean? Like the fire doesn't get you, the smoke can kill you,
right? And you're not going to like suck down a bunch of smoke unless it's an accident. If you're murdering someone, right? You're not like, I guess I'll go out with them, but at least I got them. Like, you're right. Factually, there is a fire in play. And factually, you can see that the fire took place in a certain spot in this house and that it did not spread. So it must have been very hot and very fast, is kind of all you can assume.
Yeah, that's, but like, okay, so literally everything but like the feet,
just the feet, and the shoes are intact.
Come on, man, how does that? I guess like where does the fire start? I guess
that's a good question. See, that's the question, because if you're stood up, what's the closest to the ground? Fire tends to go up, right? Heat rises. The reaction, the chemical reaction of fire goes upwards. If it consumes the body, it doesn't inherently need to travel down. If it burns fast enough, it doesn't have to travel downward to consume everything it's touching, right? So maybe that's why the feet are left behind. Maybe the hands would be left behind too, because I'm just thinking it's a long extremity. There's not a whole lot of bone there compared to everything else that's going on, right? You just have your little leg bones.
Right.
So yeah, some bone. But I mean, all things considered, I guess I can make that work out. If you're assuming that this phenomenon is actually what's happening, I guess that plays.
It intrigues me.
It's very fascinating. And so then your gut says, well, fine. Okay. These are old times, They're saying it's an act of God. They're saying like there's a story of this Italian knight that wasn't documented for a while. Like it wasn't, and again, I'll get to this, but it wasn't written down for quite some time. So is this just hearsay? Is this just archaic misinformation, the lack of scientific knowledge? Well, I don't know, because we're going to dive into some modern cases that come all the way up to 2010. This is something that kind of consistently
here we go.
happens every few decades. Like there's another case. So let's jump into the death of Mary Reeser, who was a notable case of suspected spontaneous human combustion. This happened before she went to bed on July 2nd of 1941. And before going to bed, she told her son that she had taken 2 Seconal pills. Basically just pills that you would take typically before a surgery to relax, to kind of knock down your anxiety. They're barbiturates, as it were, and she intended to take 2 more of these pills after calling her son. At this point, Reeser fell asleep in her chair. The next morning, the landlady, Pansy Carpenter, smelled smoke when she came to deliver the telegram that was meant for Reeser. When Carpenter opened the door, or she tried to open the door, she realized the doorknob was too hot to touch, and so, as you can imagine, she immediately called the police for help. That's just a little factoid there for all the kids at home. You touch a handle, it's hot. Risk of fire. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Call 911.
No one's going to get this, but if you've seen Backdraft,
I don't know.
Oh, damn it. I guess all right. Hold on.
Let's get into the
Backdraft. It was
Backdraft Pizza.
As a movie about firefighters, Chicago firefighters. Who 2 brothers didn't get along. They had to work together.
Dang.
Because there's an arsonist that's loose. This movie was released in 1991. It had William Baldwin, Kurt Russell, Donald Sutherland. Yeah. And Scott Glenn too.
Whoa.
Yeah. That's what I learned.
Just 2 brothers.
Just 2 brothers. Don't get along. There's an arson loose. Gotta solve the case.
Dang. This is a stacked movie.
Yeah, it was a good movie.
Okay, so back to Reeser's unfortunate demise here. So when Pansy opened the door to come inside, eventually, right, with the police, I should say, the police came in and they almost missed her cremated body in the damaged chair. They almost couldn't tell that someone had been sitting there, except when they looked down and they saw her left foot was entirely unburned and still in her slipper.
Here we go again.
Now, there is imagery of this online. And
what?
If you're going to look it up, heavy viewer discretion is advised, right? It's black and white. It doesn't look as gruesome as it potentially could. It is older footage, but it is what it is. But for those of you who don't want to look it up, it's simply not... Okay, it's not like a foot at the ankle going down. It kind of cuts off on the lower end, the lower half of the shin. And then it's, as it says, it's just a foot in a slipper. Very odd and completely untouched, surrounded by obviously a bunch of ash and the chair being melted and burned down, much like a chair would be if you lit it on fire.
Okay. So here's a non-scientist.
Okay.
Trying to science this shit up right now.
Let's do it.
Okay. So it kind of seems like a mixture of things within the body. Sounds like, either someone's taking alcohol or certain medication, whatnot, that's triggering things. If I'm to believe this, something's being consumed, it's being triggered within the gut, the stomach, and if the flame, in order to pretty much just incinerate everything except for the shins down or whatever, it'd have to burn very hot, very very, very hot,
and then immediately stop. Right?
Yeah, and immediately stop, but then heat would rise. So I mean, if it was literally like a burst, maybe it's like it shoots upwards, consumes everything, but that pressure that energy, that force shoots down, reaches towards the feet, and then, rises back up.
What? What
Right?
pressure? What energy?
I mean, like, wouldn't there be like?
Are you talking about like the heat
The
splashing
heat.
off the ceiling and kind of
Not
rolling
splashing,
down?
more just like if I'm assuming there's some type of like explosion within your stomach, right? Like
Yeah.
a fiery explosion that consumes the top half, but obviously just the force of the explosion pushes down towards your ankles and then just ends up rising back up.
I don't know if I'm capturing the imagery here. I might need a diagram.
Man,
But
you know
I
what
think
mean?
I think I'm getting what you're saying though, which is like if there's some sort of mysterious, yet to be determined, right, chemical reaction happening inside these bodies, and maybe it is biological in a sense, something to do with their DNA or their genetic makeup of some sort, right? Maybe they have a high level of, I don't know, I'm just gonna make something up, stomach acid. I don't know what other fluids are kicking around in there.
Yeah.
Or maybe they have a high level of bile or just some sort of like an acidic bile or something that then combines with something that they eat. Maybe it's alcohol in some form because a lot of these
That's insane.
are heavy drinkers, such that we've seen so far, or this person has taken some barbiturates. And maybe it's just a very, very rare combination that then sparks like thermite and it burns hot and fast and there goes the body, the fuel's consumed and the fire then stops. I don't know.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, like thermite.
It's yeah, like except thermite does continue to burn and burn and burn, but whatever the biological version of that would be. And maybe that's like we are ancestors. Our dragons were our ancestors, right? And like fire breathing was a thing and we got bad at
We
it.
lost it over time.
And then when we tried it again, we just kind of like really messed it up.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
There are definitely like some bugs. I think there's a bug that spits out like two chemicals, and when they combine, it basically like melts its prey and it smokes and stuff. So
Oh,
it's
that's
not
awesome.
entirely unheard of for biology to have reactions of this nature.
Yeah, nature gets getting real wild with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I see that.
Whew. Well, what's interesting here? So we have another familiar symptom, however, a little different. Very strange that I didn't know about this one. Among the ashes and the gore, I should say, they also found pieces again of her vertebrae and her skull. However, this time it is said, and I'm going to quote here, that the skull was shrank, quote, to the size of a teacup, end quote. That I'm not sure if I can believe. And that is why I actually stumbled into the photographs, because I was looking for photos of this. Perhaps they exist, but to the size of a teacup, I know there's like shrunken heads, but I don't know the whole process around that. And I don't know if, I'm just trying to think of the skull itself actually shrinking. And I don't know if that's possible.
Does that happen? I mean, we know nothing.
Yeah, I mean, we're just like lunatics online.
But like, yeah, to get a skull to shrink, I mean, it's a thing, isn't it? Like,
So there is a process to create a shrunken head. I don't want to go into that process because I am completely just looking this up. I don't know the process.
yeah.
But it is, I just wanted to confirm this part. It does involve removing the skull from the neck. And then the rest is kind of dried down. So again, it's interesting, right? That they're saying that the skull was in fact shrunken down. I don't know if I have any evidence of that I can find immediately, but it just seems like this might be the one piece of evidence that we're kind of fancying up the situation, and all it's doing is clouding the possible evidence here, right?
Yeah, I think the thing too is, I mean, again, we know nothing, but I would think that if you were trying to shrink a skull, it'd have to do with, I don't know, kind of depleting the moisture in a certain way after a certain, during a certain time frame or something like that. Not burning it so it shrinks.
Right. That's. I mean, even if a skull could shrink, I'm with you. I don't know if necessarily just like being burned would do that, especially since other victims of this phenomenon, it didn't happen. Right?
Because when bodies are cremated, it doesn't always fully cremate the entire body. Sometimes there's pieces of bone and stuff like that. I've never heard of those bones possibly being just baby bones, like tiny versions.
I was gonna say babyfied.
Just, you know what I mean? Like babyfied bones of your body.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting too is that now we start to, as we enter the modern era, we get a little bit more around the case, a little bit more documented observations. So Around the area, some of the objects nearby Mary Reeser actually did start to melt a little bit, but they did not show signs of burning. There were no burn marks elsewhere in the apartment. So all we can now add to the list here is that the fire burns very hot. And it, again, must burn very quickly, but hot enough to radiate out. And you have to imagine, the door handle was hot. She wasn't sitting by the door handle. So what it must have done is really dramatically increased the heat, the radiation coming off of this fire, enough to make the door handle hot, enough to melt some of the nearby items, but again, not enough to burn anything else. Very strange.
Fire's not selective.
It's not selective at all, no.
Weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if it burns so hot to like just incinerate a body and then generate enough smoke where someone can die from just smoke poisoning, and then the handle was hot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why are we not essentially burning the place down at this point?
Exactly. And what's even crazier is you say, fire is agnostic, and mostly that's true, right? There are things that fire won't necessarily burn, like a cup of water. But here's the thing. Nearby to this incident, and this is just exacerbating the point, there was a stack of newspapers, okay? They didn't catch fire. This is newspaper. This is some dry paper.
Oh, come on.
In fact, this whole situation went down without any of the neighbors nearby having any idea of it. No one had any idea that there was a fire. No one had any idea that this had happened to the unfortunate Mary Reeser. It just did. So again, just more points in the extremely hot, extremely fast column. Whatever that means. I'm not saying it has to be spontaneous combustion, but whatever's going on, it's fast, it's happening when they're alone, and it's over. It's hot. But anyway, investigators found that it was not an electrical fire, so that kind of marks that one off, and they were baffled at how the fire would behave this way, much like you and I are. The remains of Mary Reeser were sent to the FBI, and they found ultimately nothing combustible from what did remain, but they did find melted fat in the rug, which is a bit grotesque, but it does go to say that, okay, maybe they weren't entirely burned apart. Maybe this fire went so hot and fast and that it was not enough to burn the whole body to smoke, you know what I mean? But rather that it was so hot that some of the more soft tissues of the body basically just melt away. And that's why this is able to go boom so fast, just gone. But it's honestly kind of spooky when you start to think about it. And you think of it as like, we all fear the unknown. What's around this dark corner? You never know. But to have the idea that at any given moment, you could just burn apart in a few minutes or seconds or I don't know, and no one know why, like that, it's very spooky, very unsettling.
It is, but you'd have to think that this would, I don't know, there's just so many people out there in the world that you'd have to think that this would happen more often, and then at this point that we would be like, okay, don't mix these together.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just such a rare combo of stuff.
How is it so rare? I mean, there are a lot of super rare medical cases. This could be something that fits along that line, but
yeah,
I don't know if people are just sitting there just like, all right, I drank some alcohol and I have this genetic mixture or whatever. You'd think that it would happen more than like, I don't know, once every 100 years or so. Like,
yeah. Maybe it does too, and it's just either not documented or whatever, because the worst part about this is, again, however you feel about the subject, let's presume for the moment that it's actually what's happening. Because if you take it at that value, all the evidence is burned, man. Like, how are you supposed to figure out what exact chemical combinations that uniquely combined to happen in this moment to unfortunately burn this person in but a moment? It's all gone. There's no way to really dissect it. Yeah, I don't know. And maybe there are some cases where the house does burn down and it looks like a normal fire or something. It's just it's really fascinating. And to be in the modern times and to actually have the door open to something like this is really, it's just like, that's what keeps me so intrigued on this.
As soon as you said like, oh, this happened in a recent case or somewhat recent case in 2010, I went, okay, here we go. You know what I mean? Like, 'cause at that point I'm banking on modern technology to kind of really help push the narrative one way or another.
Right. Right. You would expect, a high quality iPhone video of like something going down, or like, maybe when one happens the next couple decades, we'll have someone's home video capture it and we're all going to be freaked the F out. But
see someone just poof.
But let's dive into, now we're getting into the even spookier times, because now we're in the 80s. And then we'll follow up with the one from 2010 here after this. But in 1982, the family of 61-year-old Jeannie Saffin witnessed, okay, finally, there was a witness this year.
Well, here we go.
Witnessed her burst into flames as they sat in their kitchen.
Wait, what? Witness who burst into flames?
So the family of this 61-year-old basically witnessed Jeannie Saffin.
Got it.
The matriarch of the family basically burst into flames as they're all sitting in the kitchen.
What?
And her brother-in-law, Don Carroll, claims that the fire started in her stomach, saying this, quote, "The kitchen wasn't damaged, but her cardigan melted. The inquest never sorted it out, but I know what I saw," end quote. So Don and Jeannie's father, Jack Saffin, were able to put the fire out. However, Jeannie unfortunately passed away in the hospital 8 days after. So now we have the very first, at least that we're covering here, documented case of someone who underwent this phenomenon and then survived, at least for the time being. I don't think we have any quotes from them. I don't know if they were comatose from injuries, but we don't really have any firsthand account from Jeannie themselves as to what happened or what they experienced. But Jeannie's family also claims that her clothes did not end up on fire, that the only source of the fire would have to have been the pilot light in the stove, because otherwise there was no other source of flame in the room. Some theorize that perhaps the father's pipe was the source of the flame, but at that time it had already been put out. So investigators were starting to say, okay, well, maybe there was a stray ember from the pipe that could have lit her nylon shirt on fire. And so, there are a couple of little caveats here that could open the door to the possibility of just a freak accident, something that we couldn't have expected, right? And maybe that's why it looked like it's emanated from her stomach, because an ember landed in the folds while she was sitting in around the stomach area. But this is one of the very few eyewitness cases in modern history. Carroll also claimed, by the way, this is the person that I quoted before, but claimed that the fire was actually also coming out of Jeannie's mouth, and that she, quote, roared like a dragon. End
What
quote. Yeah. I guess I joke about dragons, but I mean... So anyway, the investigators on this note did not find any evidence of burning in her mouth. So you can trust this, or you can say this is a bit sensationalized, but I do have an anecdote. It's not a personal one, but it kind of goes to support this in a way. Now, I've heard stories of people who cook whole turkeys or whole chickens, and I'm talking like whole, and they stick them in the oven and hot air escapes out the neck as steam is created and the bird is cooking. And if it affects the vocal cords, it can create a bit of a scream sound. And people have reported that they've had chickens or turkeys or whatever in the oven screaming, and it's unsettling to say the least. But no, it's definitely a dead animal and it is not screaming. But if this person, if Jeannie had some fire blazing in her stomach from some freak combination of chemicals, and that fire burst out her esophagus because heat was just looking to expand, like you were saying, maybe there was some sort of explosive pressure. Maybe it could have been quick enough to not burn the mouth, but would have been enough to basically blow past the vocal cords and actually create a sound. I mean, so it is entirely possible.
Like a kettle, right? Like
right. In a weird way, yes, like a kettle.
Yeah, I guess.
So I can see it.
It's the air pot. I can see it. That
would be terrifying, though. Grandma starts spitting fire and roaring.
Why wouldn't we have more cases, though?
I mean, we're not covering all of them. We're covering a handful of some of the key ones. But remember, the very first documented case was not necessarily roaring like a dragon and flames coming out, but vomiting flames is what they said. So there is a bit of an overlap here. That there is a consistency between all of these stories that is kind of unique in this realm. I mean, when you talk about a lot of people undergoing various paranormal activity or whatever, there tends to be some overlap or whatever, but this is probably the most consistent, case by case, decade by century situation that I've seen. And again, I don't know if it's people building off of stories that they've heard, kind of like aliens and abductions, or if there is something else going on here. It's just the consistency is actually pretty startling when you really think about it.
Then again, it just takes like, people that want to get involved with it as well.
That's true. I don't want to get involved with it. I'll just let you know that.
Look,
if I burn to pieces, it was not me.
Yeah, aliens and stuff. Like, sure. You want to believe. No one wants to be set on fire.
Right. Well, no one wants to be sucked up into a spaceship and tossed out back onto a Wendy's.
Well,
like
some people do.
Some people do. I don't know, man. But let's talk about the 2010 case. Let's kind of wrap up the cases here, and let's see again if we can find any other similarities. Just kind of continuing that trend. So, this one happened to Michael Faraday, who was 76 and considered a possible case once again of spontaneous human combustion. This happened in Ireland on December 22nd, 2010. So we have another kind of Christmas or holiday situation here. Don't think that has anything to do with it, but maybe. You got to think about fireplaces being involved. You got to think about, heat elements being in play in these colder environments during the winter seasons. But Faraday's neighbor, Mr. Mannion, woke up to the sound of his smoke alarm going off. He got no answer when he knocked on Faraday's door, so he got another neighbor to start helping. Like, hey, let's get in here. Something's going on. There's a fire alarm. I can't get in.
Yeah.
When they got in, Faraday was found lying on the floor on his back with his head closest to the fireplace, but his body was totally burnt, but not all the way down to ashes. The floor below him and the ceiling above him were the only other things in the room affected by the fire. So I imagine that at some point when he was on fire, he was laying on the ground, and that the heat was dramatic enough and the smoke dramatic enough to rise up and create a mark on the ceiling. So this is, one of those other instances where there really isn't a whole lot of fire spreading here. Now, the police did not suspect foul play, but they also did not believe Faraday's death to be caused by the fireplace, which is interesting because you would think so, given where they were laying, given the fact that perhaps they were lighting a fire, and maybe when striking the match, a piece of the red stuff on the tip of the match could flick off, hit the sweater or something. Who knows? But they're saying we don't think whatever it was that caused this was the fireplace.
Damn, that's that like frustrating middle ground.
Right.
Where, like the previous story with the family, it could have been, sure, it could have been X, Y, or Z, right? It could have been like this, was it the pipe or whatever, or something like that. The ashes could have gone on to the cardigan sweater or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Here is one of those situations where it's like, well, I mean, you'll probably say maybe it was caused by the chimney or whatever. It's like, no, that definitely wasn't it. That's like, I guess, confirmed to not be it.
I mean, again, these are the people that were there on site. These are professionals. So you want to say, sure, I believe you. But unless I guess I have my eyes on it, I'm like, is there a starter log? A naked, untouched starter log in that fireplace? Is there some untouched firewood? And yes, sure, some people keep untouched firewood in their fireplace because then it looks nice. But to me, that kind of tells more of the story. Was this person, in fact, in the midst of interacting with their fireplace in some way, and then this went down? Or was the place that they collapsed just ironic in that way? But pathologist Grace Callergy noticed that while Faraday had diabetes and hypertension, they noted that this individual did not experience a heart attack. So, we have some conditions here of the body, right? They have a couple ailments, but it wasn't because of those ailments that they passed away, that it was in fact from the fire. And then we have 25-year-old coroner, Dr. Kieran McLaughlin, claimed, quote, "This fire was thoroughly investigated, and I'm left with the conclusion that this fits into the category of spontaneous human combustion, for which there is no adequate explanation," end quote. And so there we have it. We have one of our most recent, if not the most recent instance of this, and we have young professionals out here claiming that this is what it is. It's SHC, right? This person fell victim to a phenomenon that we don't fully understand still. And that was that.
I mean, there's a lot of medical mysteries. So it's not super far-fetched to think that it's a super rare thing. There's just so many key things that just intrigue me and baffle me and confuse me, like the newspaper in one of the situations, and how, I don't know, the fire doesn't just consumes so much, or it's like it just burns so hot, or the door handle's hot, but then like nothing else is, there's a lot of stuff that's untouched.
Yeah, it's very strange.
It seems so precise.
Very precise.
And
Very precise.
Fire, I don't know how precise fire is. I mean, it just spreads.
Not very.
Give it oxygen. I don't know, just breathe itself and go.
Yeah. You know what's interesting to me, and again, we always do the theories at the end, but I can't help but think, you're talking about how few cases there are. And let's be clear, there's about 200 cases or so that have undergone or have some sort of spontaneous human combustion involved. And what's fascinating is that they're all deeply related to each other. They have a lot of similar experiences or similar pieces of evidence. But what's really interesting and what's totally possible is that this is not necessarily spontaneous human combustion, but rather fire acting in a freak way. That if an accident happened, and this is where I don't know if this has happened before, but where scientists, if they could basically just gather up a bunch of pig bodies, humanely gathered, put typical human fabrics on them, I would say probably put various alcoholic beverages in them, and then give each of them various ways to accidentally spark a fire and see how each of them react in an environment. This is a very expensive and very intensive experiment, but see how many of these fires fully spread to engulf the whole place, the whole room, or whatever else. Or if you get maybe even 0.5% of those that just burn hot, fast, and in one solitary location, you might start to go, okay, I guess we're all used to houses burning down because that is how it always tends to go. But there is a small sliver of a window that just allows the opportunity for some crazy things to happen, which is a body burning very hot and fast due to various, reasons, whatever those might be, but not necessarily self-created, like a fire just spontaneously creates, but rather that something initiates it, but it stays localized. And, that's, to me, maybe what's really going on here.
Yeah, I mean, if you were going to sell me on any piece of it, that would be it.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. I don't know. I'm so precise.
It's very precise.
So powerful and precise.
Yeah. And it always seems to originate from inside. All of these stories don't really indicate that there's an external source, or at least not as the way they're documented.
Which I'm kind of happy about, because if it's it could happen on the outside of your skin, then at that point it gets really confusing.
Yeah.
I can believe the inside of someone's stomach, their intestines, certain chemicals mixing in together. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, that's kind of where my mind goes too.
The thing I really like about the last story was the fact that there were professionals involved, and me, I love the fact it's okay, get the pros involved, get them in there, let's hear their opinion, let them try and break it down, give them access to the scene, the crime scene, or the area,
right?
And
document it, photos,
get some great minds on it,
right? Exactly. Unlike, the first case. Now, I kind of indicated this earlier, but Polonus Vorstius, that first documented case that happened back in 1470, is a complete opposite of what you would expect from the modern times, which this wasn't recorded until 1641, almost 200 years later. So, and it was documented almost like a tale passed down verbally within the family. And then eventually it made its way into a collection of stories, a book that is just a collection of unique causes of death. I won't attempt the name of the book. It's okay, I will, but it's Latin, so bear with me. Historiarum Anatomicarum Variorum.
Does not sound easy, I'll tell you that much.
Okay.
Look, you attempted it. I would have. I would not have.
It's out there.
I wouldn't
now.
have attempted because I'm not bold enough.
Yeah. So then it starts to make me think, okay, cool. I really like that some of these recent cases have modern science behind them, documenting things, theorizing, whatnot. But then I have to crack open the case a little bit further and start to go, can we apply what we've discussed in the past, you and I, about abductions and about aliens? Can we apply that here? Basically, a story is established, Whether it's falsified, fantastical, or accidental, or real, I don't know. A story is documented. And many years after that, that story then starts to kind of creep into the zeitgeist a little bit and starts to pick up some steam. You know, maybe it takes a while for someone to come up with the monster of the week, right? It takes a really creative writer to come up with like Frankenstein, but then once he's out there, he's all over the place. You know, so maybe it's just kind of one of those things.
But the thing
turned the people's minds onto a certain subject.
I can see what you're trying to like go with.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it applies here simply because like a lot of the abduction stuff, it's more so you kind of have to just go off of what the person is saying.
That's true. That's very
right?
true. That's
here
a good
there's
point.
actual like tangible evidence.
Right.
There's burnt bodies.
Right. And regardless, again, of it being this phenomenon or whatnot, it's definitely something that's happened. Something's happening, and it's wild and very hard to explain, if at all explainable.
Right, like definitely something is happening because there's the burnt bodies.
Mm-hmm.
How? I don't know.
Hey everybody, Trevor here once again with a couple of housekeeping notes. Just wanted to say right here, just before you skip, store.roosterteeth.com. We've got that Task Force merch out and ready and available, hot and fresh. Thank you all so much for those of you who have been buying that Task Force merch. The button, pin, badge kind of combo already sold out day one. So thank you so much. But yeah, I'm not sure exactly what's in stock right now because I am recording this in advance. But again, thank you so much for supporting the show. That really does mean a lot to us. But with that said, I do want to talk about a couple sponsors that also help the show. This episode of Red Web is sponsored by Candid. Thousands of people have used Candid, the clear, comfortable, removable, and practically invisible aligners to help straighten their teeth, and now they love their smile. Just like Cameron from Nashville, Tennessee, who said that their life completely changed because of Candid. And Candid is here to help straighten your teeth so you can fall in love with your smile as well. Your treatment is prescribed and closely monitored remotely by a licensed orthodontist who's an expert in tooth movement. You'll have the same quality of care that you'd get from an in-office orthodontist, plus the convenience of doing it from home. I was able to go to their website and see if I qualified using their very easy little survey that they have right there on the homepage. It lets them know what kind of issue you have, when you want to start, and how you found out about them. And right away, you can figure out if you are qualified. So I really appreciate that their survey, super easy to use, and boom, you get that information right away. Become your best you. Start straightening your teeth today. Right now, you can actually save $75 on Candid Starter Kit. Go to candidco.com/redweb and use code REDWEB. That's candidco.com/redweb with code REDWEB to take advantage of this limited time offer and save $75 on your starter kit. candidco.com/redweb and code REDWEB will tell them that we sent you. This episode of Red Web is also sponsored by Raycon. I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm always looking at the screen, now more than ever. And we all know that unplugging yourself is easier said than done. One of my favorite ways to rest my eyes and get the content I'm itching for, well, it's by putting on Raycon wireless earbuds and listening to something great. Raycons are built to perform anywhere and anytime with water and sweat-resistant construction and Bluetooth that pairs quickly and seamlessly. Couple that with enough battery life for 6 hours of playtime, you can unplug for quite a while. I use Raycons when I'm going on a walk to get away from my work, just get some sun on me, and get outside the house for a little bit during these quarantine times. And they're super sleek looking. They're not large. They don't protrude. They look quite nice, and they tuck into your ears, and they don't fall out when you're walking around. So you can either run or walk or whatever you want to do with them. It's really nice to be able to plug those in and go outside, get on a walk, and just listen to some good music with good quality. Raycon's offering 15% off all their products for listeners, and here's what you got to do to get it, okay? Go to buyraycon.com/redweb, and that's it. You'll get 15% off your entire Raycon order, so feel free to grab a pair and a spare. That's 15% off at buyraycon.com/redweb. buyraycon.com/redweb. But with that said, let's dive right back into the mystery. Well, what's interesting is that spontaneous combustion has also been documented in nature as well. So not just humans, but it's commonly studied in hay. And so they're going, okay, well, let's take a look at this and see what we can learn from this, and maybe that will apply to humans. So it's theorized that when it comes to hay, that the moisture contained at the center of the hay bales ferment to the point where it then combusts. Now, I know what we all know. We probably all know what fermenting means. It tends to be applied to the fermentation process of creating alcohol. But just for the sake of conversation, I'm going to outline it here. It's the chemical breakdown of a substance by bacteria, yeast, or other microorganisms, typically involving effervescence and giving off heat. And so that's the thing I wanted to note, is that, you know, alcoholic beverages were common in a lot of the stories. And if you imbibed a truly large volume of, I don't know, maybe it was still fermenting, whether it was wine or some other alcohols, and the fermentation process suddenly kicked it up to 11 inside your system.
Yeah.
That spontaneous release of heat from that process, from whatever biology you got going on inside, maybe that's what it was. I don't know. But it's just interesting that the theory that we are kind of tapping into for this case is also something that's being theorized for other instances.
Mm-hmm. Right. If I was to kind of like bet on anything, it would be somewhere along the lines of like that kind of like theory, right? Like that train of thought.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been saying it since the beginning of this episode. It's like something is mixing with something else, and it's sparking this.
Right. Because it's always, every case has always been nigh impossible to figure out the source of the fire. And anytime they look at it, and they look at like the fireplace, for example, they go, nope, that's not it. So it's interesting. So it must be a source that has been destroyed, and the only source being destroyed is the self in these cases. But a couple other characteristics are found throughout multiple of these stories, beyond even the ones that we covered. But these cases tend to be elderly women. They often tend to be heavy drinkers or smokers. And smokers, you got to think about, you know, lighting up, matches, lighters, all of that sort of thing. Accidental, you know, houses burn down from cigarettes all the time. There's also the commonality of diabetes and often living alone. Now, I'm not saying living alone is causing this, but I think the lack of witnesses is kind of exacerbating the unknown here. But it is a common trait. And it's so freaky how consistent these descriptors are.
Huh. Yeah. I mean, a part of me goes, oh, they're just reading it from other, but then why would you read that? Right? Because okay. So what I'm trying to get at here is that there's no sense of like foul play, right? That there's no like, oh, someone is essentially trying to create this anomaly.
Mm-hmm.
And that being said, it's not like aliens in the sense of like, oh, I heard this story, I want to mimic it, right? Like, I don't believe that there's old ladies out there going, I heard this myth, I want to mimic this, and then
right. But maybe
do that.
investigators